Okay. We've not gone live.
I'm looking at this thing, and there it is. We are now live.
Okay. There's the usual lag, so I'm going to have to not have the YouTube page open because that'll confuse me. Hello, everybody. Starting a little bit late because of usual technical issues. I am James Edward Raji, the fourth publisher at Lamentations of the Flame Princess. And you are? Are you not hearing me?
I am hearing you. Hey there. But I was getting two versions of everything you said, and it was disorienting me there for a minute.
Well, introduce yourself.
So I think the audio feed from YouTube is coming through somehow. Yeah, so anyway, hi everybody. My name is Jeff Rains.
And apparently, we're still having some sort of technical issue. Okay, are we speaking real time now?
Yeah, Jeff, you need to mute your YouTube video playback. Guess what? My YouTube video playback is muted.
Okay, so as long as we're talking real time again. Okay, so what an auspicious start we have. I feel like such a professional YouTuber now. Okay, so
Dude, I don't know what's going on with this audio situation because I think I've got it strained out. Maybe.
yeah, are you still hearing a lag?
No, I'm
Respond.
not. I can hear you right now.
Okay. This is going to be weird if we can't communicate. Okay. Well,
Wasn't that like?
Okay, we're yeah, it's almost 4:15 in the morning here, so I've had myself a nice little nap. As we're going to talk about cultural politics and Lamentations of the Flame Princess, basically events of this past week have been another controversy, and I think we dealt with that pretty well on our end. That's who knows what the scuttlebutt elsewhere is saying about it. But with everything that's going on in the world and the horrendous state of discussion, I thought, why not make it worse? Because all of the issues with the blood and the chocolate situation, everything that led up to it, pretty much shows that just being quiet and getting on with things, we're like way beyond that by years, and stuff that hasn't been addressed. And people think it's a big thing that not only do they have to like the thing they're buying, they have to understand and support the personalities behind everything. Is this my kind of person? And that's well, basically, with the big releases coming up that are either going to save or sink the company, and really halfway hoping that people just say fuck it and I get to somehow get a normal job and have a mortgage-sized debt and never deal with any of this again, I decided just to let's get all this stuff out in the open, so if people want to support me, they know what they're supporting and don't feel betrayed later on, as seems to be a thing these days. Or not. Sorry, the technical issues are, threw me here. That's not the opening I was planning, but
yeah, we're gonna be fine. It's just taking us a moment to recover our wits, given how stupid that was. And by the way, a big part of that whole thing turns out was my fault. I had YouTube open in another tab, and it automatically launched the live feed, and so I didn't know I had two live feeds going and killed the audio in one, and it still kept coming through on the other for some reason. So sorry about that.
So I think we had a bit of a format here that we were going to stick to. I have death for a live stream, but I wanted to get this right. I've got a written statement to read, the LotFP mission statement. And what do we estimate that would take? 10 minutes for me to get through, so hopefully I can make that interesting. Then we'll jump into the situation with Kyle and my take on all that and some of the issues surrounding that, and then we'll go to questions in the live feed, and I'm sure we'll go to many interesting and horrific places that will absolutely not end up with everybody wanting to kill each other and remove them from the face of the earth and their internet feeds forevermore. Because we might be talking about very sensitive topics here, one of the reasons we're running at this time of night for me is we needed a moderator in the chat, because what an absolute nightmare to have people sniping at each other the whole time. So that's King Brackish, I think, is the handle in the chat. He's the moderator. If you have problems, yell at me, and they'll even when I'm monologuing, hopefully Jeff here will be cataloging questions to get back to them when I'm done monologuing, and I'll address things. Don't argue with each other. Don't have a thing going back and forth, or you're a piece of shit. No, you're a piece of shit. No, you. Ron has been instructed that if anybody's giving him any sort of a headache, that he is going to give them one warning, and then after that warning, you're booted. No, if you do it again. So, yeah. And he has full autonomy. I am not even looking at the chat, so I'm not the person who you need to be on the good side of. You need to be on the good side of King Brackish over there.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, King Brackish is doing the moderation. I'm actually reading to vet the questions to feed to James. I'm going to try and get to everybody's questions. But, we only have a certain amount of time here. I told my wife I would try real hard not to go past 11 o'clock. So let's see here. King Brackish equals Zack Sock Puppet. No, actually, he's the moderator from the Facebook group, right, Ronnie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, Ron, no favoritism over there, except for me and I guess Jeff. Okay. So part of the thing, that we're going to talk about are things that people tell me to always shut up about. And so I'm not going to shut up about them, and everyone's going to freak out. I'm actually really nervous about tonight. There have been monologues I've been doing the past few days where I'm practicing what questions are they going to ask, what are the answers going to be, and I end up giving full speeches to an empty room where I work myself up, like the last live stream when I started crying. And it's just like, oh, this is going to be a shit show. I can't wait. So, I'm going to read a hopefully not too long and boring thing. That's a way to sell a speech. Concerning LotFP's mission statement and my history of collaboration, both successful and failed attempts. Just so you have an idea of how I see Lamentations of the Flame Princess, what I think it's for, and how I approach collaboration. And I have a feeling that a lot, once again, I will sell it this way. I fully expect that a number of you are not going to like this. So, have we successfully covered the preliminaries, and should we begin? Or should I begin?
I think we're good to begin. I'm getting down questions as they come up so that we'll be able to vet. I'm sorry, we'll be able to get them answered later. So go right ahead.
Okay. Goodbye, career. Lamentations of the Flame Princess mission statement. Lamentations of the Flame Princess's mission has always been to create without fear and collaborate with people who themselves can create without fear in the service of publishing work that is unlike anything ever seen that no one else would publish. Sometimes we even succeed. Remembering the high-profile instances of censorship and cultural suppression in the 80s and early 90s, a special focus is given to defying norms and standards, sticking a finger in the eyes of the self-righteous, and fighting the most repugnant closed-mindedness encountered in my youth. Ignoring censorship, both self-censorship and censorship from outside authority, and eschewing all external creative restrictions is fundamental to the entire project. If someone was offended by something, then there must be more of that. If a creative idea makes me feel nervous, then it becomes necessary to do, because such fear cannot be allowed to live in the creative process. The entire point of the thing is to be creatively free and fearless. To this end, I want to work with everyone. Everyone. I always have. To just publish my tastes in my expression would be limited and boring. I needed other people who could cut loose in their own way. And I found that working with other people to bring their visions to life is actually far more gratifying to me than releasing my own work. The idea of free association became as vital to me as creative freedom. A partial history now of Lamentations of the Flame Princess collaboration and attempted collaboration. Point. In 2010, when I was first wanting to publish projects from other writers, I chose Jeffrey McKinney and Zack Smith as collaborators, specifically because they were talented people with distinct voices in the scene. Their work was extraordinary and ignored boundaries, and their very presence seemed to cause moral offense in the luminaries and established personalities of the RPG field. It had to be them. Point. In 2012, I had that insane 20-project multi-crowdfund experiment. This included nutty MRA James Desborough and nutty intersectional feminist Anna Creeder as potential writers, not together on the same project, among others. I didn't pick those two despite of who they were. This was after Desborough's bizarre In Defense of Rape blog post, and after Creeder's bizarre The Depiction of Women in Gaming article in the C-Page XX webzine. I picked them because of who they were and how vital I felt it was to demonstrate that I would work with anyone, because the work in collaboration is all that matters. Preferences, personalities, politics, ideologies, and identities are irrelevant to me and should never get in the way of collaboration. And I wish these projects would have been made, even knowing that their worldviews would likely inform their creations, even knowing how much shit having either of them in the catalog would have brought down on me. The experiment did result in releases by Jeff Reentz, Dave Brocky, Vincent Baker, and Kelvin Green, and failed to fund for Desborough Creeder, Monty Cook, Kevin Crawford, Michael Curtis, Cynthia Celeste Miller, Richard Pett, Mike Poyola, Juhani Seppala, Jeff and Joel Sparks, Jennifer Steen, Yuka Sarkiarvi, Ville Vuorella, Aaron Alfrey, and Jonathan Bingham. People who I'm sure are all thrilled I'm mentioning their names on stream. Point. In 2012, I also had an ill-fated idea for an Owls-themed book expanding on Kenneth Haight's bit from the Monolith, which would feature adventures for 10 or 12, I forget, different systems, each one written by someone well-versed in that system. Only of the 3 agreed-on bits were ever turned in. Zach's submission was later used in Frostbitten and Mutilated. Michael Curtis and Robin Laws had also turned in adventures. One of the systems that was to have an adventure was Fate, and I hadn't heard from their people in some time. Well, late in the year, very early in the next, Fred Hicks had his mini meltdown concerning the success of Kingdom Death, and I was critical of him for it because I think all projects should exist and be encouraged to do so. I was probably quite salty in my criticism because it stank of censorship in waiting, and to me, the worst thing a creator can do is attempt to suppress other creators' work. I very promptly got a message from Hicks. I think it was Hicks. It might have been someone else in the Evil Hat camp, saying they wouldn't be participating in the Owls project. I was sad that such a petty disagreement would result in not collaborating, because again, all projects should exist, and now this one wouldn't, because of something as moronic and insignificant as ego and difference of opinion. In winter 2013-2014, I put together the Doom Cave book for Free RPG Day as a response to the people who had tried to suppress Better Than Any Man the year before. Stores refusing to distribute the book to people asking for them, even destroying them. There was a story of a fan that went dumpster diving behind a game store to rescue copies. You know, that sort of thing was common throughout the time that I was allowed to participate in Free RPG Day. And again, when the Doom Cave was specifically a response to some game store employee or owner, I forget which, that was haunting the Free RPG table and telling people looking at Better Than Any Man that the book was all about killing children, which it wasn't. So not only did I make Doom Cave and present it specifically in a way to make it really look like it was about killing children, you know, because the proper response to censorship is never compliance, and also note the precedence here for creating an entire project as a response to a single person's criticism. So, for Doom Cave, I attempted to contact every notorious bad person or dirty reputation RPG author I could find contact information for. And let me tell you, in that time period, that was such a more innocent field than it is now. You know, and I tried to commission each of them to do a small bit of writing, describe a mundane, unremarkable piece of furniture in a room. I would have put all their names on the cover. And I thought it would make a great point if some controversial person caused an uproar because they wrote something like, "Also on the floor is a plain brown rug," and nothing else in the book. Just, that was the idea. Take these people with bad reputations and have them write completely boring background description, single lines like that. Because I think the entire concept of no platforming is simply evil. There's no other word I can come up with it after years of dwelling on it. Everyone, even whatever really bad person you're thinking of right now, should have the opportunity to express themselves. Fucking everyone. Few of the people I contacted responded, though. Only one followed instructions with their response, so the whole thing was suddenly turning into more work than a small practical joke warranted, so I didn't use any of them. I clear out my old emails every so often, so I don't have the full list of people I asked back then, only the ones that responded. But lucky for me, the only name you might be thinking of that I'd even consider a real problem to collaborate with didn't enter the industry until the next year. Point. I had some brief discussion with the RPG pundit concerning the project that would later be released as Dark Albion. I wanted a more real-world historical approach than he wanted to do, as I recall, so things never really got further than preliminary talks. We haven't really ever seen eye to eye on much, so who knows if anything could have happened even if we, had agreed to work together. But to me, the obstacle of our cooperation was entirely creative vision for the project. Now here's one I'm very iffy, because I think all the communication was on Google+, so my time frame for this might be off. But some years back, and I think it was before Trump even declared his candidate for president, to place it on the timeline of insanity in the world, there was some controversy or other in RPG world that, again, as I recall, didn't have anything to do with me for once, or any of my people. And I was sick of how people treated each other and judged their work based on factors outside the work. So I had an idea for an open call for pitches, as I, sometimes do, or did, I haven't done that for a while, with the requirement that this time being that I would only accept pitches from convicted felons, people with felony records, because everyone does get to create and have access to an audience. And Zach actually talked me out of that one. but that was a thing that I was prepared to do and actually had written up, a thing for public release to receive those pitches. Point. In late 2017, Stacy Dell'Orfano had posted about having money trouble during their cancer treatment. Stacy had been working on and off for years on an LOTFP book, and I decided to make the relationship official by offering advance in their time of need for their project, without any real assurance that the cancer treatment was even going to be successful. Stacy is, contractually speaking, still an LOTFP author to be, and even after everything, I would still consider it an honor to work that project. Point. Just a few years back, the idea of using Bobby Beausoleil's art was brought up to me by an author for a project. I had no objections. It didn't occur to me to think no. And indeed, I thought doing so would be cool. The project went in a different direction, though, and the author dropped the idea. But I didn't. I tried contacting Beausoleil's people very soon after Drive-Thru banned my book, the Zack Has Nothing to Do with This Book PDF last fall. Because again, the proper response to censorship is never compliance. Didn't go anywhere. When Chris Spivey's Harlem Unbound won big at the 2018 Annie Awards at Gen Con, I tried to give him a $3,000 cash advance on the spot for a project to be decided later. My hotel didn't have a safe, so I was carrying more than $12,000 in cash with me at the awards that night. Fuck. And I tried to sweeten the deal after he was, iffy. I don't know whether he knew who I was and trying to politely put me off, or if he had no idea and I just came across as a maniac. So I tried to sweeten the deal, giving him carte blanche to name any other designer that he wanted, to whom I would give a $1,000 advance for their own project, in cash at Gen Con if they were there, for the project to be decided later, simply on Chris's say-so. Fortunately, this didn't work out either. That same year, I was taking open pitches at the LOTFP booth at Gen Con. One pitch I liked resulted in a contract I wrote on the spot, but he came back the next day, and I told him, yes, you had the best idea. I didn't even know the person's name when we made the deal until after I put a contract in his hand to sign, and after $1,000 in cash was already in his hand. So I gave him the cash, gave him the contract, and then was like, what's your name? Gen Con 2018 was probably the zenith of Lamentation's influence and success, and the best thing I thought I could do with LOTFP money was to start handing it out to creators, both known and completely unknown to me, in the spirit of creation and cooperation. Their background, beliefs, politics, personality, not even their name or anything. None of it mattered, and I didn't care. Not in the sense of, I trust this isn't a horrible human being to such a degree that I won't worry about it, but consciously realizing this was a possibility and discounting it as completely irrelevant. This was simply an exercise in pure, hey stranger, cool idea, let's do something together, and damn everything else to hell. That is how I act when I feel free to act. And I'll also put a note, a digression. The third-party licensing that I have up on the LOTFP website, I made that licensing loose, and I thought, wait a minute, people I don't like might use this license to promote something under compatible with LOTFP to produce something that I find absolutely repugnant. And I decided, okay, that's okay. I have to trust people, both that won't happen that often, and that if it does happen, that people will be understanding, that it is pretty much a very open license. Because in some ways, if somebody I like is doing something that appeals to me, there's no need for it to be done under a third party, is there? So, in a certain way, the entire third-party license is designed for either people I wouldn't work with or have problems working with or doing projects I don't like. That's the point of the license, to allow people that. So, yeah, I want to work with anyone and everyone, regardless of demographic category, popular reputation, beliefs, or yes, even criminal background. My values include acceptance and openness to cooperation and giving the authors freedom to express their creativity and their values, allowing their work to be personal to them. The only limiting factor is, or should be anyway, is there an idea for a project that we're both excited about? It's very easy to say, I will only work with good people who never cause problems that everyone likes. But I covered some of this last live stream. I own copies of thousands of albums, books, and movies. I've seen, heard, read many more. And so many of the creators behind those works are such damaged people who have harmed others. And they have been able to transcend their damage, their limited perspectives, to create great things. In some cases, profound things. Things that in a great many cases surpass the work done by people generally understood and acknowledged to be very good human beings. My life, many lives, would be so much poorer if certain people had been suppressed and prevented from presenting their creations to the world. A publisher actually interested in producing good work seeks out creativity wherever it can be found, not just where they're comfortable looking. They concentrate not on who a person is, but what they can give to the project at hand, and by extension of that, what they can give to the world. Imagination and creativity must be expressed without fear and without limits. And I'm failing. And I have been failing for about 2 years now because I am afraid. And that's the statement.
Okay. So, thank you very much. Do you need a moment? Should I filibuster for a bit, or are you ready to dive into the questions?
No, that or some draft or most of that was actually written last December. And there's been this whole thing I've wanted to post, and I just haven't because it never seemed a good time. It was always seemed ill-advised, and maybe it was so now, but it's just like everything's coming to a head in the next week, and I've gone through this in my head for holy shit 7 months now. So I'm good. I'm good. It's not fresh wounds. Sure, it will be once some of the people start responding to this, especially some of the people that are named and thus associated. That'll be fun, but that's the prepared statement I had to say.
Okay. Well, I've got some questions here from the chat I'm going to start hitting you with then, if that's okay with you. Actually, here's the one that maybe we could have saw coming. Oh, in fact, I think we did discuss it. When will the books be on sale?
Books be on sale. Okay. Yes, that's very relevant to the matter at hand. Well, I'm expecting to get the slip cases. They're scheduled to be delivered on Friday. And all of the conventional wisdom says that launching a product on a Friday isn't the best thing. I have no idea whether that applies to somebody on my level and not like movies release on Friday. So, but what I'm going to do is if the stuff is delivered Friday and everything looks good, I will open the sales Monday 100% for sure. So getting the stuff Friday, if everything looks good, I can start with the final hype process over the weekend at least for a Monday on sale.
Okay, great. All right. The next question was a joke question, but if you want to field it, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin at standard temperature and pressure? That's Lord Moore making sure to stir the pot a little bit.
The answer is an unlimited amount because angels do not exist. Therefore, you can imagine as many imaginary things on the head of a pin as you like.
There you go. Settled. Name some things that could have to happen for you to go back to publishing whatever you want.
Hmm.
And that
I would
didn't
have
get a
to.
name.
Yeah, I would have to have confidence. See, here's the difficult thing, because sometimes it feels like my life online is constant garbage. And a lot of this is the stress gets to me. Well, this is going to be part of some of the later anticipated conversation, but in 2017 into 2018, I lost like 50 pounds. And I thought I was on my way to being a normal looking person with normal health. And when this stuff started piling on, I lost it. And I've gained all of that back and maybe more. I ended up in therapy over this shit last year. There was a situation when the stuff with drive-through and Zach has nothing to do with this book, that when the shit was coming at me, it didn't feel any different than usual, than the new normal when it was happening. But the next day I woke up so numb that I actually shit myself. And I posted that in my personal Facebook when it happened last September, October. And that, and even before any of the controversies, if we go back to October 2018, before any shit had hit any fan, oh God, quite literally now that I just said that. Remember, I had already decided, I'd already brought on somebody to manage my social media because I couldn't handle things. I had basically been run off Google Plus just because I couldn't handle, at the time, people trying to tell me who should be allowed to comment on my posts. Why is this person commenting? Why don't you block them? It's like, well, why don't you block them and you never have to see them? And then you don't tell me, because there's some people that I may not particularly like, but I'm still interested in what they have to say. And this person obviously didn't block them because they knew they were still. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this shit. So I just left Google Plus. And I think that was the same month that I was grinding my teeth in my sleep to where they were getting loose. And I went for emergency dental treatment. And they said, this is stress. And this is before any of the big controversies. So I've either been worn down and not as strong as I once was, or I never really was dealing with serious shit, and I just was never as strong for these things as I thought I was. So my ideals and my beliefs and practical considerations collide, and to just say fuck it completely and totally, I don't know, because it's like, this is all I know how to do at this point. I haven't had a normal job since 2005. And it's like, poor me if I have to go get a job. That's not the worst thing in the world. I would need to acclimate to that again, but that's not a horrible thing. Everybody does that. I'm one of the few lucky ones that, at least for a few years, got to live the dream. But I love the collaboration. I still love doing this. I want to do this, and I have to find a way to do it to where I enjoy what I'm putting out, enjoy who I'm working with, but also realize that I have vulnerabilities that people love exploiting. That they laugh at me for having having these weaknesses. And the balance between those things, it's I don't know. It's like, I don't want to give the bastards an inch, but real life is real life. And that's, so I don't know what would it take. Well, Yeah, because again,
Okay.
2018. I mean, I was just thinking, oh, just buy lots of stuff and make me think I'm financially comfortable, but no, because 2018 was the best year of Lamentations. I had that generated for me an actual like middle class level income, lower middle class, but still middle class income from role playing. And I was still breaking down before the controversy. So, no, it's not simply buy lots of stuff and make me feel financially secure, because that ain't it either. So, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know is a legit answer to many questions. Mr. Allen the Ninja asks, why do you care what these people who don't buy your products anyway say or think?
Because they have proven able to get products banned, they have proven able to put pressure on sales outlets. They've been proven to basically create difficulty in every avenue, in every venue that's not my apartment. Uh, so it's not simple online chatter that I can turn off. This is stuff that affects everything that happens in real life. They've put pressure on numerous people to stop working with me. And that happened, and that still happened even this past month. A major project I've lost. And some of the people are true believers, saying, you're not who I thought you were, and you're doing this and that. I can't work with you anymore. But then there are also a number of people that say, man, I completely sympathize with you, but being attached to your company is affecting me socially, is going to affect my other career prospects. And that's a real thing. It's not a matter of just ignore them and they'll go away. There's actual real world shit happening because of it.
Okay. So the next few questions are from Zach. You obviously, I knew you'd
Here we
love
go.
that. You
Here we go.
obviously aren't publishing everything that makes you nervous. You curate. What is your real current curating policy?
Um, there's the curating. Well, it is okay. That's going to be on a case by case, project by project situation for the most part. That's when I receive a submission or receive a pitch. I've like when I was doing like open pitches for magic items and things, and people like there's this one person that sent me like very sexually and not sexual horror, but pure porn fetish stuff. That said, I don't even want payments for these. You can use them if you want. And it's just like, what? I wouldn't be nervous about publishing them. I mean, I got one thing to come where this monster is just basically a porcupine made out of dicks. I'm going to publish that, and because that's funny. That appeals to my childish humor, and I think that's funny. But sometimes it's just not appealing. Job Bittman, I think, keeps submitting things that may be over the edge. His upcoming book, I'm nervous about it. Towers 2, I was excited and I'm excited and nervous about the upcoming thing. Towers 2, I was excited and nervous about it, especially when the decision was made to go full on graphic with the art too. And so when I turn something down, I'm allowed to not like things. I've never had anything, here's my Nazi role playing project. Let's see what your commitment to free speech is. I've never received anything like that. And, I wouldn't want to work with something like that, although, people pick apart shit that I do. Yeah, I have my own taste. It's not only, oh my god, this makes me nervous, but it actually has to appeal to me, and that's a very specific, particular thing, and I can't answer why one thing would appeal to me or not. It could be what's happening at the time. It could be, the phase of the moon. I don't know. It's just when I see it and I was thinking, yeah, I want this, or no, I don't.
Okay. So, referring back to your principles of free speech, Zach asks, what about misinformation as a form of free speech? This is getting, I think, well into the political here. It may not be under our
Well,
remit at the moment.
yeah, well, cultural politics is what we advertise this as, and as the hard question now, the misinformation. Well, yeah, well, that's a rough one because again, when things start getting out of hand, whether it's someone being accused of something that they maintain their innocence, or whether someone's, impersonating another personality on a message board somewhere, shit happens and it's just, can I deal with it or not? And I can't always deal with it. That's all I can say. There are, I want to make decisions where I feel good, where I even feel like I'm, standing strong. But, I also don't want everybody to run off. I do also want to be liked. I want to be successful. And so it's this is not easy. This I have my ideals. I cannot always live up to them, and I hate myself for that, but I fear I would hate my life more by that's just what it is. I'm an imperfect, weak human being who aspires to things I cannot always achieve.
Oh my God, you admitted
Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay. Someone might respond to your rhetoric by saying you care more about all kinds of books existing than all kinds of people. How would you respond to that?
See, this is the exact wrong answer, but the first question is, what do you mean by cares? Well, really, I don't wish harm on anyone, but I don't think offending people is harming them. And if I publish something that makes someone upset, that just for the bare minimum to do anything of what I want to do, it's going to offend someone. Like, I'm wearing my Napalm Death Nazi punks fuck off shirt. And, my merchandise, the people that do my shirts, the sticker on there that with the size label on them, it's love music, hate fascism, I think is the thing on it. And so just by wearing this shirt on an official live stream, I'm going to offend fascists. And, if there's any fascist that likes my stuff and orders a shirt and get, and nobody's fucking caring. Nobody cares if I offend those people. I don't care if I offend those people. So there's a definite, I think there's a definite spot where everybody could agree on some level, fuck those people. And of course, this gets very dicey because once you go down the spectrum, it's like, well, no, you can't say fuck those people. And I don't want to say fuck those people, but I may do something that's offensive to those people. And I think there's a difference between not caring if people exist and not agreeing with some principle that's involved, or caring about the principle but going forward with a problematic portion of a project because it feels creatively right, and it's, knowing it's going to cause an issue, and it's just like, well, people are going to be upset, but it's just a fucking book. There's nothing in my books, and now I'm going to scan real hard in my brain, trying to think of what's in my books that's actually maybe uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is what I go for. Because I remember as a kid, reading the Monster Manual. I've told this story in the past before, but I'm reading the Monster Manual, and I'm scared of it. As a child, I got into D&D 8, 9 years old, and the first edition AD&D Monster Manual, the pictures of the undead, the Lich, the zombie picture, the Spectre, those pictures scared me as a child. I would not read that book for the longest time at night. I'd only read it during the day. And there have been movies that I've seen. The Babadook basically gave me a fucking heart attack. I swear. When the big monster reveal happens in that movie, I lost physical control of myself. I got the tingling up the arms where I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. I could hardly breathe. I couldn't move. And that makes me think that's a great fucking movie. That did that to me. I felt like I might have to go to the goddamn hospital. And my concern was, Jesus, I'm not going to find out what happens in the movie. Things like movies like Cannibal Holocaust, I Spit on Your Grave, a Serbian film, were deeply, deeply disturbing and affecting to me, where they weren't fun to watch. They were really just gross and disgusting and extremely effective. Nobody, I wouldn't even know what to make of someone that watches those movies for actual pleasure. Or the movie, or Lars von Trier, I think it was, the Antichrist movie. I didn't like it very much because I went in with bad expectations, I think. But the scenes in there of like genital mutilation, and there are people that are going to watch that and freak the fuck out. And oh god, I'm going to here's a story that was on my list, and I guess I'll tell this as far as difficult media. This was going to be attached to the blood and the chocolate discussion because of some of the elements in there, but I'll tell it now since I think it's relevant. Showgirls came out in 1995. There's a transition. Showgirls. 1995, was it? That was, that was Paul Verhoeven. And that was basically marketed, or at least how I received the marketing. This is going to be like a porno in a real movie theater. So I got a date. A person I was seeing at the time, and we're going to make a big date to go see a midnight showing or late night showing of some sort of Showgirls. And it's going to be preparation for our sexy times. Get that image right in your head, everyone. And they made a big deal at the theater. They're checking everyone's ID, and and so we go and watch. And the movie, I've only ever watched it that one time, but the movie, as I recall and as I experienced it, it really sucked. Again, maybe it's just expectations. If you're going in thinking, it's going to make big boners for later, and it doesn't do that, then you're going to miss the whatever merits the film actually has. I just remember the splish splash pool sex scene, and I remember it as being ridiculous and not erotic. But spoilers for Showgirls. And yes, I realize this is going to make me sound absolutely heartless, but this is how I deal with these things. This is how I experience these things. There's a rape scene in the movie. And two things happened at once, because this really sticks in my memory. As the rape scene starts, and I'm thinking, there's really going to be no boners generated by this fucking movie, are there? My date starts freaking out, having a physical reaction, an actual, true, non-ironic, triggered reaction. And I mean, in place, not screaming or anything, but making noise, and grabs onto me tight, like burying her head, not wanting to watch it. This is the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that happening in person. And I immediately started putting things together. It's like I understood what was happening. And it's like, okay, oh boy, yeah, this movie really sucks. Because again, but I've been thinking, Verhoeven, and afterwards, just in hindsight, thinking about the movie and that thing happening, I remember like the like RoboCop was pitch perfect. Total Recall was pretty damn good. Starship Troopers was such effective satire that it seems like the whole world missed it at the time of what that movie was. Yeah. But that movie, once you know what that movie is and you watch it again, because I certainly didn't pick up on it. I mean, I noticed some things that seemed off, and I think people saw that some things seemed off, and I think that contributed to its original not so great reception. But once you understand what's going on and rewatch it, that movie's fucking brilliant. I mean, Paul Verhoeven's the real fucking deal as a filmmaker, even when making schlock films. And the idea that in this movie that I was rejecting and hating, that and my date, as I recall, was feeling the same way about the movie, like, oh God, what a waste of a night, But when this scene happens and gives her that reaction, thinking about it, it's like there is something real in that movie that was missed. I'd watch shit with her where a scene not quite like that, but in those territories were nothing from her. So there was something with how that movie was constructed and how it built and how that moment happened that was too real. And on one hand, unpleasant as fuck, to say the least. On the other hand, admiring the craft. I was thinking there must be something in that, something that was true and something that was real that I completely missed watching in the first time, that allowed that reaction to happen in a person. Now, I think now how that relates to LOTFP, people read the stuff, and I haven't ever, I've never heard of anyone having that sort of reaction, but they're having anger at some things in LOTFP that are basically what I'd consider the entry points on the spectrum that leads to that sort of reaction, blood in the chocolate included. But, and that is a difficult thing. It is, and I suppose that, and that is a serious thing, and sometimes I wonder how to do it, but then I think of all the media that I admire that aren't showgirls, that have similar elements, and it's like, well, we need the right to do this as well. And maybe we do it poorly, but we have the right to try to do it like the things that are. Clive Barker's Books of Blood is always the example that I use, because that thing is just full of sex and murder and violence together in a lot of cases. And it's horror and it works, and Barker knew what the fuck he was doing. My tastes when moving in that area are more trauma schlock. I'm which offends people too. So, and I know that's not the exact question about caring about books existing more than people existing, but that's the attitude I have on a very serious subject for people. and I think I think you guys can tell me if I'm not being as clear as I think I am, but I think my thoughts on certain sorts of people and being offended in favor of fictional material is somewhere along those same lines. It's like I recognize what's a horrible thing in real life, but that even if it makes people feel bad at times, that's not an excuse to excise it from fiction and the creative process.
Okay. I think that was a pretty darn good attempt at a live answer there. So I'm going to move on to the next question.
Okay.
Do you plan on publishing the statement you read anywhere? Several people in the chat have noticed they found it inspiring and should be sort of distributed widely.
I suppose I could. Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons I hadn't published this big grand freaking statement that I've been working on off and on for the past 7 months is the places that I could publish it. Now, here's me being naive because I've really misread the room as far as venue versus how responses are delivered. But my thought with being more comfortable doing it here is it's very easy to not look at the YouTube comments. Somehow on the Facebook or the Twitter thing, it's more in your face, but the whole don't read the comments section, truism or slogan was originated because of YouTube, wasn't it? And it's very easy to just not look at the comments on a YouTube page. But again, I'm sure this is going to circulate and I'm going to get whatever shit I'm going to get regardless. So, maybe posting that. But then there's also, again, naivete. Anyone that really hates me, are they going to be sitting through this stream? I suppose there are people that'll have the hate boners like that want to see what shit I'm going to say, that they can go back and say, what a shitty person. But I think that's more accessible to those sort of people in written form on a page than spoken on a stream like this. So, yeah.
Okay. Why would you ever want to please or bow to the cancel mob? They hate you whatever you do, irrespective.
I covered that, didn't I? Basically, it's not what it's their influence isn't just telling me what to do. They influence other people, sales outlets, other creators. There's that's the reality. To stand up and say fuck off means that even if you're not alone, the pool of people you can work with and the avenues you have to get it to people, they just constrict so much. And sometimes I wonder, have things already constricted to where I shouldn't give a shit and everyone who's left is already left? And I think, no, things can always get worse. And there's also the point then, and again, I don't know why these people that do this sort of thing would want this or would encourage me to end up in this space. But in the end, even if I just am doing LOTFP as a money-losing hobby while I'm having a real job, because it would still continue in some form or another, maybe, if I can't pay the printers and shit, then even that gets difficult. It's, who I would still want to collaborate with people. And I don't mind. I have no problem collaborating with Morlocks. I really don't want to fucking end up to where all I'm collaborating with are Morlocks. I really don't want that.
So, Monkey Work floated this idea of, have you considered publishing where you don't use real author names, just pseudonyms, and reveal them? I think the idea he floated was a year after publication, so that there's room for the work to be judged on its own merits.
Well, that does happen with some people. I'll tell you right now. Alucard Finch, author of Big Puppets.
His real name's not Alucard?
Yeah, and the thing is, there are people that aren't going to have realized that, and I feel like I'm saying something I shouldn't, but people already do publish under pseudonyms. Yeah, what do you do?
Okay.
Yeah, but again, I wouldn't want to impose that on someone. Of course, that is an option. And I've published other people under pseudonyms before. And frankly, I very much like it when I don't. It's very much easier when I don't know who they are before, being introduced to their pseudonym, because I'm just worried I'm going to slip and reveal shit I shouldn't reveal. So if I only know you by your pseudonym and I only see your real name when I'm doing royalties once every 3 months, I feel better than actually being familiar with a person. And then I sort of feel like I'm bad at keeping secrets. There's a confidence builder to anyone listening thinking. But yeah, I'm going to shut up before I do slip. But yeah, you get my point,
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Lord Moore, who's offered some really interesting comments in the chat. How could we disrupt and otherwise thwart those who seek the doom of Lamentations of the Flame Princess?
Buy shit. That's number one. Buy shit, because if you buy shit, there will be more shit to buy later. That's number one. Whether everything else is a barren wasteland and oh my god, calamity, if the money is flowing, I can do more stuff. That I can do more stuff in a more timely manner. Not that Lamentations has such a regular release schedule, but we're always planning and hoping and working on it. But keeping the money flowing is the best way for that to happen. The other thing to do, and this is difficult because asking other people to fight my battles, especially battles that I've bowed out of, seems really crass, and I don't want anyone else to become a target. I don't want anyone else's online life to become a living hellscape. But suggesting that you treat Lamentations of the Flame Princess as any other role-playing game and put it into discussions and talk about the books in different places, that's a way to do it. And it sucks. There's a lot of places where people have effectively shut that down by making there be a price to pay to do that. And I don't know what to do about that, because I there are people I don't like but I don't want to unleash a Lamentations mob on them. I don't want to do that. So I don't know the answer. The first thing is keep the money flowing. To number one, it allows me to continue, but number two, it allows the authors to get paid substantial amounts if you're buying their books in substantial numbers. Once my money situation sorts out, I'm hoping that in addition to getting out of the hole I'm in, that I'm able to then be paying the authors significant amounts of money. And if that can still be the narrative around Lamentations, like weird fucker publishes sometimes, stuff that maybe should not exist in the world, but he'll listen to your weird idea and you'll get paid handsomely for it. That's a powerful thing to keep people around too. Right now, we're not in such a position of power, but again, with the release schedule and things like that, I understand how that happened. I'm just hoping we're reversing this with the new set of releases, and that's all up to you people. But to be able to say, but for an author to be able to say, whatever weird stuff is going on, that, yeah, I was able to do the project I wanted with Lamentations, and I made good money at it, is a powerful fucking thing for, yeah, in the community, shall we say.
Yeah. And I don't, and personally, I think you're really easy to deal with as a publisher. So I think that's also an advantage for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matthew Austin, we're still getting through questions that were offered during your opening statement, so to speak, and that we're nearing the end of it. Matthew Austin, what are you afraid of actually?
What am I afraid of? I'm afraid of financial ruin. I am afraid of being unable to be online with. I'm afraid of actually being seen as a real monster. I'm wondering, even right now, I don't go looking anymore. I used to have a Google Alerts with my name. But with everything that's been said to me and the things that have been shown to me that have just been absolutely nasty, it's like, even if I don't do this anymore, as I said, I haven't, the last time I had a regular job, I don't even know if MySpace was even a thing yet. So the idea of going out and trying to get a job and the employer says, oh, okay, what comes up when I put in this person's name in social media? Can I have a normal job of any sort of responsibility or any, that'll allow me to live a life? I worry about that because I've seen things where if you have a wrong opinion online, and granted some of these were really bad fucking opinions, where you don't get to even have a shitty normal job because the people that were mad at you for the thing you did will hunt you down at your normal mundane shitty job and make such a problem for your employer that you can't even have that job. Now I've seen that happen with people that have worked at record stores, pawn shop. I just learned of a situation. Walmart greeter. This shit sticks, and I know I'm juggling things not great, but I worry that things could be so much worse, and that it's not just a matter of can I continue to do this, but also sort of the fear of can I do anything after. So that's, my imagination goes overactive sometimes, and maybe in my case, I would hope this is needless worry, but it is a worry.
So, changing the topic back to when can I get those dang books? If you can't ship to my country right now, can I still place an order if things go for sale?
No, I've changed the setup. So if your country's not on the approved list, the order can't be placed because I don't know when things are going to change, and it's going to be a problem if, as money is coming in, and I'm using it to pay bills, just like back out the door because I owe people money. And then if 3 months later, shit still hasn't opened up, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna need that money back. That could be a problem. That could end up being another big problem for me, and I don't know that everything's going to go well enough that I'll have a money reserve after. I still might be heavily in debt, just hopefully not nearly as much, and that just seems like a bad idea. That creates problems down the road. So sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
So another question, what's the number one thing fans can do to help LOTFP continue and get back to its prime? I think James answered that earlier with his phrase, buy shit, ! Is how I wrote it down in my notes.
Yeah.
Will there be an official future LOTFP collaboration with Zack?
See, that's the big question, isn't it? And I think part of the problem I had when I did the announcement dropping him from the roster is it was pretty obvious that it was something that I was forced to do. And it was, because if you listen to the statement, nothing that Zack has been accused of doing matches, for example, what Bobby Beausoleil has done. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't. But everything surrounding him, even allowing him to post in the group, has made me lose people. And I get the we need to have a talk emails and Facebook messages just by allowing him to exist in the space without working with him. So, anything I say here, people are going to think I'm a piece of shit. It's just by saying that, just because I don't, that even if, and I say if, what do even if everything is true, it's just like, to me, the issue should be people's actual safety. This is what the issue should be. Would publishing a person, and I say a person because this issue is right now about Zack, but the overall issue has jack shit to do with Zack. Because as many people as I have worked with and want to work with, there are going to be other issues with other people at some point. Just because I want to work with a bunch of people and I hate the idea of vetting them. Or even if you vet them, sometimes it's the ones you never expect. These issues are going to come up now and again if hopefully I'm still doing this for, 20 more years. These situations are going to come up over and over, and to me it should just be about safety. Does publishing a person through LOTFP make anybody less safe than if I wasn't publishing them? And for role-playing stuff, I don't have an office. I would do convention space and booths and stuff. That's that I would have to have more hands-on control. But this role-playing stuff is made at home. There's no office. You're not in physical contact with the fans or the other collaborators. It's not an office where I have to worry about someone's physical safety. It's someone working at home. And whatever their faults, whatever they have or haven't done, what they, doing stuff for me doesn't allow them to do anything that they're not doing without me. So, yeah, but then more people leave, and I'm sure people are going to leave just hearing me say that I personally don't see any moral issue with it. It's all completely practical, and the hellfire more that I'd expect to rain down on me that I can't deal with. And it sucks. It really sucks. Because again, the media that I like, the things that I like that are made by people who have proven in court to have done worse things than Zack's ever been accused of. Ideally, I could just say, okay, let's get back to work, and that people would make their decision to buy it or not, and people But the problem is people will not have the decision to buy it because there will be concerted efforts to get everything of mine removed from everywhere. And that's real. That is real. That is not paranoia. That is real. So that's that. that's
Yeah.
that's
So
that's all I can tell you, and that's the issues. Those are my issues with that situation and that question.
I feel like there are two interrelated issues that keep coming back thematically to this conversation that we've been having, not just tonight, but ongoing. One is, should problematic art be allowed to exist? And the other one is, should problematic people be allowed to create art? And there are some folks who feel very strongly the answer to those questions are no, and some people who feel equally strongly that the answer to those questions are yes. And so, for example, I've had sitting in my Amazon wish list for God, I don't know how long, the Unabomber's Manifesto in print.
Hmm.
You know, is that something that should exist? Should it be published and things like that? I don't know. It does exist, and I'm interested in owning a print edition of it. I've read a PDF of it many years ago. Um, I don't think we normally get to choose what art goes out into the world. The publishers are in a very weird position vis-a-vis that, but I guess we all are now in the social media era.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, it's like I own the Communist Manifesto, I own Mein Kampf, I own the Quran. I actually don't yet have a copy of the Bible. It's in a shopping cart at Amazon, but I'm not. That's not the kind of thing I'm going to use when I owe people money. That's not the kind of thing to be spending money on just to have a bookshelf of things I think are really bad. To expand that, but yeah. But as far as problematic, I said last time I own a couple or three Burzum CDs just because I don't even like them. There's so much stuff. I'd made the decision years and years back that every piece of Nordic, Scandinavian death metal or black metal released through 1994, I want every copy of it or I want a copy of everything that's been released on CD. And there's no exceptions. And there's some fucking horrible people that have released stuff and stuff that really sucks. And when I had money, it's, do you know how many fucking generic Swedish death metal, unremarkable, garbage, boring bullshit that I own because of that? I've got the green screen thing here I've been fucking around with that's in the way, but usually you can see the shelves and shelves of CDs. And there's so many CDs there that I don't give a shit about. I listened to once and I was just like, but it feels good having the library. But then, I say I don't like Burzum, but like Emperor's the other example that they've done wonderful shit. And, there's a murderer on one of those albums that is wonderful. And the band, after he got out of prison, still brought him back for live performances. So it's not like he went to jail and was forgotten about forevermore. He's still in with the guys there in the band. Dissection, it was the same deal. Those first two albums, even though the main guy is just a complete fucking nutter. Again, accessory to murder, I think, was the exact charge that he went to jail for. And he ended up committing ritual suicide. A big actual occultist. But those albums are fantastic. And again, the usual things. Roman Polanski, when Ninth Gate showed up as a new release on the Finnish Netflix a couple months ago now, maybe, whenever it was, recently. And it showed up, new this week, Ninth Gate's like, oh, I ain't seen that in forever. Knowing full well what Polanski definitely did. And that's just I'm just talking about the problematic people, the problematic art. Obviously, you know, um, the boiled angel stuff. I'm blanking on his name. It's 5:30 in the morning. Just look up boiled angel. I should have that guy's name on the tip of my tongue all the time. But even like John Waters stuff or trauma stuff, or or the entire fucking genre of heavy metal and everything it represents is in some ways problematic art. So that the problematic art should definitely fucking exist. Piss Christ. You know, piss Christ. That should just be a general expletive for people. You stub your toe, piss Christ. Um, so problematic art and problematic people should definitely be making art because, frankly, people. If people that can't get along in the world with the general population, if they can't even be artists, then what the fuck? Just put them all straight in the asylums, and burn the place down if they're not allowed to participate in society on any fucking level at all. But that I think the problematic people runs into a lot more problems than the problematic art, as we've been talking about.
All right. What will it take to make LOTFP the anti-WotC or whatever? Asks Matthew Austin.
Well, well, I don't want to be the anti-WotC. Where did that come from? I just call them wizards. Wizards of the Coast. How is that more difficult than WotC? Yeah, well, I was thinking, because I actually did some editing on that fucking thing I read, and ideally, every publisher would have an identity of the kind of stuff and the kind of ideas, the kind of atmosphere that it produces. And if you had a Wizards D&D idea, ideally you can go to Wizards and say, let's do this thing together. And they'd go, okay, that's a D&D thing. And then if you had a Glorantha idea, you can go to Chaosium and say, I got this Glorantha. Oh, cool. Then if you had, and then if you wake up and have a nightmare wake up from a nightmare and think, I have a good Lamentations idea, and you come to me and say, oh yeah, cool, let's do it, and do that for every company that actually has an identity. There should be D&D projects, not D&D people. There should be, for every company and every game, there should be projects that fit the game, not people. The people should, be able to basically do a tour of the different companies. I have this idea, it fits there, work together. Oh, I got an idea. The idea that there are people that become so associated with companies, I don't think is necessarily healthy, but the way the social bubbles and everything work, that's what happens. Oh, you've done stuff for them, you're that kind of person. I think that's awful. I think that's awful, and that hurts the creativity and the potential of role playing as a whole. Was that off topic? Did I just start rambling? You can.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, so let's see here. Got a couple of questions that are more into sort of nuts and bolts of the business side of things.
Okay.
What pressure points are most significant to making money that social media and all this fallout is hitting? Is it brick and mortar sales, online distribution, general customers? Is just your mental health the main issue? And the related question is, in a good year like 2018, how much money as a rough percentage just came from things like sales via distribution?
Oh, God. See, Oh God, I don't actually break the numbers down often, or when I do, it's just like, okay, let's see that, and it's on a piece of paper that I crumble and throw away. But 2018 would have been the year that where it was very common to have 5 figures a month income in from distribution. So that might be 30-40% of overall revenue. 2019, because direct sales collapsed, that was a much higher number. And I know that like drive-through, which I've had problems with them, and I actually have to have everything I release now pre-approved by them before I'm allowed to put it up for sale. And that creates all sorts of, oh God, is this going to be the one where they're going to say no? And because I basically pay my rent every month based on drive-through RPG income from sales there, and then everything else is where I pay everything else. And because I'm a problem enough for them that I have to get things approved now before going up. I feel like things are on a razor's edge, and that's difficult. I think I'm not properly answering the question, but it's everything. Convention sales, significant chunk. Retail, significant chunk. PDF sales are actually the least of everything, I think, even when times are good, but it's still the chunk that I say, okay, this is my rent taken care of. And it's even beautiful because in most cases the royalties are already being divided straight from there, so pretty much all of that money is mine. That if
Right.
everything else is paying off correctly. But the problem since the beginning of 2019, when the post office got rid of the mid-price package shipping options, that was the big fucking problem. Because even when stuff started to become controversial in the last quarter of 2018, sales didn't falter. It was the sharp difference when the post office stuff happened. And hopefully we get that back taken care of when the US web store opens, when the new books go on sale. Although I don't think I got to check up on that. I think that still might be a pre-order. I think they might actually not be in the warehouse till later in the month, but I'll open it up for pre-orders though, because the books, I just need to verify the ship hasn't sunk. And then I'll be comfortable doing that.
Okay, so back to a question from Zach. There are powerful gatekeepers at work, basically holding you down. I'm sorry, I didn't get the exact wording down. How scared are you of naming names with regard to that?
Okay. Yeah. Now, Zach. Now, this is something that has brought up in the Facebook group before. The problem with naming names is that I think Zach's method of community control or dealing with community problems, let's put it in a more neutral term, I don't think it works. I think if we see the escalation of how everything has gone over the past 10 years, it doesn't work. Clearly. I mean, look at the situation that Zach is in now and has been in versus the people yeah. And the idea that all we need is a bigger army. No, it's like I understand a war might be what we're in if you're a producer and dealing with this shit, but nobody gets into this to fight a war. And if you do that, it becomes your life. And I don't know. That. And I do want to say, and I see. I thought I had more time. I took a nap before coming back in here. I thought I'd have more time. I was going to make myself a tinfoil hat to talk about some stuff because I've heard some things that have been corroborated by other people, but that I haven't verified on my own. And because of that, I was going to put the tinfoil hat on as like a disclaimer that I'm talking secondhand shit. So that's my disclaimer to talking secondhand shit. The topic has been brought up about the Something Awful forums, that it is actually an organized troll farm, basically. The, and Zach's gone on about this in the past. But what's funny is this past week, somebody who is definitely not pro Zach, somebody who is definitely not Zach affiliated, contacted me about the Something Awful forums, that this person's been looking into this and has the receipts, shall they say, going back to 2008. That it's basically the things they don't like. They organize harassment campaigns. And it's, when it's happening to, if there's one person telling you this and you think, well, they just don't fucking like us. But when there's someone unconnected and has never been their target is saying this, then suddenly it's like, fuck, 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 fuck. Yeah. And he says that it used to be just games they didn't like, and they'd attack games they didn't like, and it would just be general trolling. But at a certain point in the early 2010s, they started switching to using the social justice-y language because it hurts more and it sticks more. And that's like, oh, fuck, And this is a person I've known a while and could completely vouch for, who absolutely does not want to be fucking named because, because they're afraid that it's going to affect their employment and the connections they have with every person they know. They don't want their name attached to it because of real life consequences from getting on the bad side of this force. And that makes sense because I've had issues where people are giving me shit, and I think it's just people giving me shit, that they're the I'll use a word that'll probably sound like a dog whistle, but the offendotrons come after me. And it's like, you're a bad person, you do this, you like a bad person, blah, blah, blah. And when I make some sort of conciliatory motions, there's not the reaction of any sort of recognition that I'm trying to listen and acknowledge another side. It's pure mockery. It's being laughed at for making the effort in trying to make some sort of accommodation to not be an asshole. For example, Zach had nothing to do with this book, when that started becoming a problem, and I thought this had come from RPG.net, that someone had posted about it there, and then here comes all the shit on me. And it was being directed at drive-through as well. They're just dealing hundreds of messages. And, this wasn't drive-through's problem, and someone pointed out to me, it's like, you named this book based, on an insult. Someone insulted you in a tweet that maybe a dozen people saw. Maybe it ended up being more, but once I was tagged, I looked at it and then, blocked and muted. So I don't know what reach it ended up having, but, the entire book was a middle finger to a single person that nobody knows about. Nobody knows the situation. So it's just looking like this is me being the aggressor to the world. So I changed the name of the PDF to get Zach's name off of it and to better describe the contents of what the adventure actually is. And when I did that, the same people that were calling me a piece of shit and a rape apologist and all that garbage just starts laughing at me. Ha ha ha, coward. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, what is that? What is that? Or or I guess at some point, we've been going on forever, but when I went to the Sam Harris Jordan Peterson debate in Dublin, because I love the theist versus atheist debates. I was on Team Sam Harris that night. That man is one of my heroes. but someone had talked about, Peterson is using this very, Nazi language, and with the cultural Marxism was the term. And I was at the meet and greet, and I ended up talking very briefly with Peterson and Douglas Murray about, what are people saying that cultural Marxism is an anti-Semitic trope, and there wasn't time. There was a long line, but when I reported back, it's like, yeah, I asked him about it, and the reaction was pure laughter. Ha ha, you fucking dick, by the same people who are complaining that I'm a Nazi enabler in the first place. And it's like, okay, I'll bring this up to these people. It's like, because I don't know the fucking history of some of this shit, so maybe, but I get laughed at for taking their point of view into account makes me a subject of further mockery. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And if this stuff is troll farming, and even just saying that something awful troll farm, it's like when people are getting criticized on Twitter and say, they're just Russian bots. It sounds insane, but there might be something there. There might be something there. Tinfoil hat off. Next subject.
Okay. So this is from Channy, who I think is trying to operate in good faith here, even though the wording is
Okay.
on some of their comments has been a little dicey, in my opinion.
Okay.
If someone is accused of sexual abuse by multiple women, is it unreasonable for people to choose not to buy their books and for companies not to sell them? That's their individual freedom of choice, ?
Yeah, it is. The problem is, from my point of view, is not what is your decision. It's coercing and making the decision for other people. Because Zack, I didn't throw out the existing stock. And Vornheim's getting low. Zack is still one of the biggest sellers that I have. And consistently, especially on drive-through, Zack's stuff is always 3 of the top 4. And that's just including the Vornheim, Frostbitten and Mutilated, Red and Pleasant Land. For some reason, even though he did the rewrite, I don't count Death, Frost, Doom as a Zack book, which, because he doesn't get royalties on that one. So I consider that as a different thing than the books that were his projects. And for everything that I'm told about the community has rejected him and this and that and the other thing, the fact is the sales still keep coming. What I'm being told by the data and what I'm being told by people are not the same thing, and I don't know how to get my brain around that. And I know that's the sort of thing that just saying that, I imagine, will infuriate people, but that is the truth. People are still choosing to purchase his stuff in numbers, in significant numbers. That's the world. That's the world. So yeah, my entire point of view and how I behave would be much different if there were people that just went away instead of attacked. And saying that, I know, just encourages more attacks because people can say, this was effective. I don't know how to square that circle or circle that square, whatever the expression is. Yeah.
So I'd just like to say real quick, Tammy, sorry for the rudeness of my reply in the chat. I just, part of what's going on here is James is thinking this stuff out loud, trying to come to some conclusions about these things. But also part of what's going on is James outlined a history of what's been going on in the past and a progression and a development. So does it all add up? Not necessarily, but that's the messiness of life, I feel like. So
Yeah.
All right, we got lots of other questions going on.
Okay, now we've been at this almost 2 hours now, and we
Yeah.
haven't even started talking about the thing that was the impetus for this live stream. So you
Yeah.
make the call. Are there questions important to answer, or do we actually get to this other thing?
Well, there's a couple of quickies. Let's try to have a quick lightning round.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah.
Do I look like a fast person?
Well, how about this? Will Green Devil Face make a comeback? Yay or nay?
That gets messy because why would you do a thing in that format instead of doing a full project? And if you're going to get stuff together, like the last Green Devil Face that came out, one of those authors has completely disappeared off the face of the earth. I was developing a larger project with that person, and I even got the layout done. And when it was time to show him the layout, spent over €1,000. This person was nowhere to be found. I tried, the email, and was this still while G Plus was going? I sent them, I had their address from the time that, I had their address, so I actually sent them a letter saying, "Hey, what's up?" And it just ghosted. So trying to coordinate a number of different people to do a thing on a sort of project that has never been a financially successful thing. It's just supposedly been for fun. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but it seems like one of those things that practically there's always better things to do.
Sure. Now, as we were discussing earlier, some of us like the sort of zine aesthetic of Green Devil Face, which brings me around to a thing that I'm actually going to respond to. There have been a couple of questions. What, if anything, is Jeff working on? So I'm going to give you a break for just a minute or two.
Okay.
First of all, on Free RPG Day, I'm going to post to the Lamentations Facebook group a item I've been working on for a while here. This is the proof copy I printed up today. So that'll be available as sort of an unofficial Free RPG Day doodad that I've made as a LotFP compatible product. Past that, anything bigger than that, obviously, if you haven't heard, there's a book that I have written that is, there we go, that is part of the new release round. If you do all 5 of the books ordered from James that
all
are
4
part
of the
the
books.
big
This
release,
is the 5th.
all 4 of the books. Thank you. That is the freebie that comes with. Yeah, and you know what, Matrix Lush, I've been thinking for a while that we should have a community zine possibly in the Facebook group. I just haven't said anything out loud about it because I was afraid I'd end up being editor of it or something terrible like that.
Everyone wants it. Nobody wants to do it.
There you go. And I have been working on another project that I haven't even talked to James about yet because it's just in the outlining. Is this a viable thing that I actually want to do level? So there you go. 2 little things that I'm working on, maybe a bigger thing coming out, God knows when, but 2 things coming out very soon. There we go. I nominate Jeff Reens editor of the zine. See that you say it out loud and it happens. Okay, so you want to get into this Kyle situation now then?
Oh, why not? Can it be any worse than the shit I've already, we've already covered and shit I've already said that are... See, the problem is I have this, I've been conditioned to think that whatever I say is going to create this angry mass of people that'll be after me, when I know that's not always true. I mean, the thing, I know we're delaying getting into the Kyle thing, but when I did the Zack had nothing to do with this book, the mentality that made me think I'm going to do this and release this at Gen Con and surprise everybody with it, I've been getting so much shit since dropping Zack from, since dropping his future projects in what was it, February 19, 2019, that because I didn't say the right things, because I was actually still proud of the work we'd done together, I was still getting so much shit that when I showed up at Gen Con, I was wondering if I was going to have problems. I was even out and about in the city, before the convention opened. I'm looking over my shoulder. Is someone coming at me? Is someone coming at me? I avoided talking to a lot of people that I knew at the convention because I didn't want people. I was assuming the people that I'd been friendly with would all but spit in my face if I came up to say hi. And I'm looking over my shoulder. Is someone coming at me? And the fact that nothing bad happened there and everyone that came to the booth was warm and supportive, that's what finally fucking broke me to the point that I sought therapy. I found a therapist, and I should probably still be in therapy, except for all the great things about the Finnish health system. I could go to a doctor tomorrow and find someone to prescribe me some sort of medication, but it's not free past a certain amount of time to be able to sit down and talk to a therapist. And I can't afford, 50 to 100 euros a week for a session, depending on what the payback is from the social welfare. It's I have this very hostile view of the world that sometimes I'm surprised by how hostile it is, and sometimes I'm completely overestimating how hostile it is. And it fucks me up. It really fucks me up. and it and one of the reasons it fucks me up is because I'm not able to do the things that, number one, I want to do or that I think are right to do. I mean, it would be obvious if I could just pull a Kyle and just apologize for everything that I'd done and beg for forgiveness. But that's not what I feel, so I'm not going to do it. And I'm in the position where I'm, drop Zach's future projects, but then not demonize him as a human being. And that puts me in this middle situation where nobody's happy. And I don't know, saying the part out loud where I was forced to do this and the people that wanted him gone aren't satisfied with that, and the people that are happy with his stuff aren't satisfied with that, but it keeps the wolves from the doors of access of some places. That's my life. Okay, now enough. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Okay, we have no plan. Okay.
Right. So, do we need to have a recitation of the facts here for starters?
Okay, the facts as I understand them, and this is me putting my interpretation on things, is that a publisher that was nominated for an Emmy Award this year makes a big deal that they don't want the nomination because Blood in the Chocolate won a gold Emmy in 2017. And if the Ennies are going to allow that, then they don't want any part of the Ennies. And they were actually campaigning, and this is an account with 13,000 followers, not huge, but still 3 or 4 times what Lamentations Twitter following is. So I use that as who's a bigger publisher. They're wanting the Ennies to strike the award, and they were bugging DriveThruRPG. Why are you still selling this garbage? Complaining about Blood in the Chocolate. And tinfoil hat on, I was informed, speaking of back to the Something Awful Troll Farms, the word I was given is that this entire controversy was manufactured and fake. That's what prompted this person to talk to me about it. They said that this was fake. This was something that was planned and then done. Tinfoil hat off. But to get the nomination for an Emmy, you have to enter your own product. So I don't understand if this company didn't want the Emmy, how they could have had their product entered for consideration in the first place.
That's why I thought it was obviously a publicity ploy, by the way.
Yeah. So that part's not tinfoil hat. That part's just out in the open. Yeah. And so what happens is Kyle Chenier, the person that wrote Blood in the Chocolate and did the layout, he disavows his own book. He does this long apology about how sorry he is for making the book and for what the book is and what it's done to the community. And my only thought is, and again, he's in a completely different headspace than I am, is that people are either after him or he's very afraid they will be. Because, yeah, and I know that he's contacted other people that were involved in the book, asking them to disavow the book as well. And you had a bit that, should I say, or do you want to say it?
No, I could go ahead and say it. So I kind of went off on Twitter when all this broke and responded to some of these accusations, which in retrospect was a foolish thing. What I should have done was taken a deep breath and then actually updated my fucking blog with a post responding to it so that I could have a single coherent place to put my thoughts rather than getting into a willy-nilly Twitter brawl. But at some time later, since I barely check Twitter as a general rule, Kyle sent me a private message asking me to delete all my tweets because he was disavowing the text, so he didn't want to be defended. So, and really, it was the fact that it was Kyle, who I think is, a really nice guy and a decent human being with some interesting ideas. That was one of the reasons I went in, is because it's like, of all the people that have published under Lamentations, Kyle just seems like the least offensive of the bunch in terms of a human being. And so I just, that combined with this strange, we are happy to be nominated, but now we want takebacks. It was just stupid, and so I reacted stupidly.
Yeah, well, I wrote the thing that I don't understand. I know he had an interaction where someone was demanding more of a personal apology from him. And I'm looking at that thinking, what? Here's a person that says they've done wrong and they've apologized generally, and they're wanting to do what they now think is the right thing. Why would you put the screws to them more? Why would you put another obstacle in front of them for acceptance? And that's, I don't know, I don't understand that mindset. I'm not a grudgy person. Anyone that's ever shit on me, I'm a sucker. If they come back and say, well, you know what? I've had a change of heart. Let's do something together. I wouldn't need an apology. I certainly wouldn't need them to make a statement, taking back things they've said. It's just I'm satisfied if people stop doing the bad thing, and then I'm fine. Grudge is gone. It's that's who. Yeah, once the bad situation is past, and people have had whatever change of heart they're going to have, or at the very least détente, then what is the point of pursuing it further? Anyway, so that's the situation. I did the post saying that, if Kyle's not into this shit anymore, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole apology and theatrics to the disavowal, it's like I'm a Martian looking at humanity thinking, what is this behavior? It doesn't, I don't understand it. And yeah, and that's my thing. I'm proud of the book. There's one thing in it which is a layout typo issue that is ultimately, I'm the publisher, I didn't catch it, it's my fault, but that's the problem I have with the book. There's a production error, none of the content. This was buried in one of the comments, maybe people haven't seen it, but the racist colonial depiction of the Oompa Loompa analogs is named so in text. They are, indigenous natives, South Americans that have been mutated by a supernatural evil plant. So they're not being presented as this is how indigenous people are. They've been mutated and called pygmies because the villain of the piece, who is portrayed as ignorant, this is not subtext, this is not implication, this is plain text, that the Spanish evil Spanish capitalist woman is so fucking ignorant that she doesn't know the difference between someone from South America and someone from Africa. And so it's like, I shall call them pygmies. This is portrayed as an ignorant fucking thing to do in the text. And to me, again, the point of using the early 17th century is because it's a fucking hellscape for everyone everywhere. It's a horrible time to have been alive. Everybody was just shit to each other. It's the perfect backdrop for a horror game. And it's disappointing, distressing to have the author disavow it, when that to me is maybe the greatest example that Lamentations has published of combining that historical horror and the weird horror. It is just this perfect melding of the two, where the real world issues are, I don't know if disclaimer is the right word, but they're acknowledged and they're there. This wasn't done out of ignorance. We didn't trip over something. This was intended in pointing out the ignorance of the day. To me, the presentation of that was as good as it's going to get. This is something to aspire to, as far as I'm concerned. So there is definitely a deep ideological divide between what the author thinks now and what I think of it and what my goal is for historical weird horror. And this is going to be an ongoing problem, I think, because as people are more sensitive to these things, and my thought is you use these historical factors as grist for the mill in the fiction. That's what the history is for in Lamentations' case. That's why the world is fucking horrible. We're going to use it in a game.
Yeah, and some people in the comments have said things, but anybody, the people complaining about the content and from Lancer, etc., haven't actually read the book, and I think that's mostly right. I think they've read it in the same way that censors always read texts. They go looking for the most salacious bits and skip over anything that might contextualize what's going on in those salacious bits.
Yeah, well, those are the bad actors. I'm more disturbed That's disturbed. Like Kyle read it. He wrote the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the conflict here can't just be pawned off on bad actors. And this is difficult. This is where the difficulty comes in. And then there's the issue with the sexual assault in the book. And this created problems because, to me, it's so over the top ridiculous that it didn't even register to me when I read it that this is how it was going to be received. That you blow somebody up like a big berry, and then they're rolled off to the Oompa Loompa den, the pygmy den, where they have an orgy. And it's like, that's fucking ridiculous. It didn't register to me. So when there were complaints about it, it's just like that. I don't see the analog to real life stuff, and I've known people and have been in very close relationships to people that have had horrible shit happen to them. And I've sat there and heard the stories and cried with people. I'm not naive to how the world is. And this didn't even strike me as that. I mean, what,
Yeah.
that's that.
And well, and here's the thing: if I might not use that particular detail, the sexual assaults orgy thing, if I were to run Blood in the Chocolate, which I have not done, because that's how modules work.
Yeah.
Adventures can be modified to suit the individual needs and tastes of the play group. So,
Yeah. All you have to do
um,
is say, okay, you've been captured. Let's fade to black. Give me the character sheet.
mhm.
There's no. Yeah, and I wonder if. See, I don't think that's the objection, that people don't understand that you're allowed to not use bits. I don't think that's the actual objection. But I do wonder if there are people that read these more old school oriented work and realize that it is intended to be customized by the user. That this isn't an adventure path that's designed for you to do this encounter and that encounter, and this is a curated experience. That these things aren't intended that way. That especially lamentation stuff, I throw in lots of spice that's, I don't know if not intended to be used at the table is exactly right, but things I fully expect to never be used at the table. And the text is there mostly to convey atmosphere to the referee, to present, the feel of the adventure. Like for Better Than Any Man, that entire realm of the insect god at the end. I never expect anyone, any player, to actually ever get in there. That entire just pages is basically for referee edification of what the fuck is going on in this whole section. It's presented as gaming material, but even if players got down there, the idea that your average group sitting down to play Better Than Any Man is actually even gonna meet the insect god getting through there, that it's essentially, what used to be just gaming fiction. To me, that's what that section is. And everyone is going to have different tastes, and people are going to have different tastes at different points in their life. And you're going to see things in adventures that you don't freaking like. This is, to me, no different than when the old D&D modules, when you would have, like Keep on the Borderlands. It's like, oh, here's the murderous raiding goblins and orcs, and then you go and take care of the problem, and you run into their fucking nursery. And it's like, oh, okay, what do we do with the kids of the orcs? And some people don't like that, so they kind of say, no, 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 orcs don't have families, and they'll rewrite that stuff out because they don't want to deal with that. This is, you're free. The creators need to be free to do what they think is best for the creation, but the end user and the reader are very free to disagree and decide, well, on the whole it's good, but that bit, fuck that. That's never seen my table. And that's fine. That is using as intended.
Yeah. So there's some interesting comments in the chat right now. So this is Channy again. It's possible to unknowingly write something that's intended to mock, say, racism, but accidentally, if sloppily done, serves to perpetuate racist stereotypes instead and be liked by actual racists. And Zack responds that was exactly one of his critiques of the text, meaning blood in the chocolate.
Well, yeah, but again, there's a difference. Yeah, that is true. Flat out, that is true. But there's to me a difference between. But again, you have to be allowed to try. And if you fail, it's a failure. But the idea that you always have to be a success attempting to deal with difficult subjects effectively will prevent people from tackling difficult subjects. You have to be allowed to try, you have to be allowed to fail without it becoming a federal issue, basically. I mean, that's part of the shit of saying free creativity and not be afraid and experiment in public. That's it. And if things fuck up, then it's just like, here's the intention. If you take it differently, then you took it differently. That's it. The idea that you fall all over yourself saying, "Oh, I did a bad make believe thing." I mean, that's all I got.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat here, and I may need to flip over to this. Did we want to talk about Kyle's situation vis-a-vis, disavowing Lamentations before he disavowed his own book? Was that important to you to touch base with?
I can. Yeah, of course I'm willing to talk about all this stuff because it's complicated and people are going to think I'm shitty, but I can certainly go into that because I've prepared for it, and this is one of the reasons why, expecting to be talking to go into this, when I said, let's see if I can run the last of you bastards off, this is where I expected it to happen. So, do we want to go into this? Let's put it to the crowd. I mean, well, shall we name the issue? Do we want to go into Jordan Peterson?
There we go.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So do we want?
Okay, we're getting a bunch
of
yeses.
Okay. Let's. The lead up to that is, the story doesn't start with Jordan Peterson. It's me and what I like and what I find edifying and interesting in conversation. And I've always been a fan of outsiders, people who don't say the things you're supposed to. And again, going back to Mike Diana is the boiled angel guy. He did disgusting shit that would. Yeah, I say disgusting shit that definitely ties into the discussion we had about difficult subjects, and that was his whole thing. And he got convicted of obscenity, and I was always on his side. But politically, like remember after 9/11, Bill Maher got fired from his show Politically Incorrect because he said that the 9/11, terrorist pilots, they weren't cowards, that they were willing to die for their cause, and his show got shit canned. I was on Team Mar on that one. Calling somebody cowards because they're willing to die for their cause, even attacking civilian targets, coward is not the right way to describe it. And the idea that he lost his job, not that he's done badly afterwards, but he lost that job for saying that thing, was always to me very ridiculous. And I hated, I remember then, because there were lists of songs you couldn't play in the radio anymore because it would remind people of 9/11. And then, like, the Dixie Chicks got canceled, to use the modern parlance. And I didn't give two fucks about the Dixie Chicks. And I thought that was so fucking stupid. What the fuck are you people doing? You're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to say things, even if people don't like it. That is the only time in my life that I liked the Dixie Chicks. Not that I agreed with them at the time, but just the fact that they stood up and said it. In a time, in a genre of music where that was going to be unpopular. I admired their doing that. And I guess this is highly relevant because when I realized I didn't believe in God, I felt like I had to keep this secret. I was still a kid in the 80s, the Reagan 80s, the moral majority and all that. The idea of not believing in God is like, if anyone ever found this out, I'd be ruined. I couldn't ever do anything. Everyone would hate me. Again, this paranoia. People are going to throw vegetables at me in the street. That my life would just be unending hell because I thought what I thought was different than everyone else on Earth. That I was some sort of unclean freak. And for years and years, my touchstone for not believing in God was heavy metal and George Carlin. And that's it. There was no atheist community. There was no place to go to learn more about this. I actually thought, because I didn't believe in God, at one point I thought, well, that means I'm a Satanist, right? And so I actually bought the Satanic Bible. And it's a brilliant fucking piece of work. LaVey was a genius. The first half of the book is is basically objectivism, broadly. I think where objectivism tries to portray itself as enlightened selfishness, the Satanic Bible's first half is just selfishness. But it tells you that religion isn't necessary. You don't need these rituals. You are powerful. And then the second half of the book are a bunch of rituals for Satanists, and send in your application money to join the Church of Satan. And I'm like, oh, this is, you magnificent bastard, you. But, I realized, none of the above. Oh, shit. None of the above is possible. It's an answer. And that was, I think, still in the 80s. And then in the 90s, like I was 1 month too young to be able to vote for Ross Perot in the 1992 election. And because even then, I didn't believe in the Republicans or the Democrats. And I was impressed, my 17-year-old self, impressed that Ross Perot would stand up and say, we're going to have to raise your taxes, where no one else ever wanted to say that. This is this problem. This is this problem. We need more money to do it. We will have to raise your taxes, but we'll do this and this with it. And it's like, politicians don't say that. This guy must be the real deal. And I even remember the vice presidential debates at that time, and Dan Quayle, when, remember Admiral Stockdale, he got asked about abortion.
Why am I here?
Yeah, Admiral Stockdale got asked about abortion, and he looked really uncomfortable, took his glasses off, and just, I got nothing. Like this dude. And it was just like, oh my God, these are real fucking people. And so I was a month away from being able to vote for Ross Perot. I've always been a political outsider. Going into the late 90s, early 2000s, I became a donating member of the Libertarian Party, capital L, obnoxious libertarian. I voted for Brown in 2000, and I voted for Badnarik, of all fucking people, in 2004. I was in Florida in 2004, registered in Florida going to vote. And I remember after the debacle last time with Bush and Gore and having to go to the Supreme Court, the idea of voting for neither of those two felt like a very rebellious act. And then I moved to Finland. And my marriage didn't work out too well, but I was married long enough to be able to stay. So I ended up moving into the dorms of my integration school, which was also a folk high school. So I was in the same dorm room with mostly fucking teenagers, and I was past 30 at the time. It was being the old weird foreigner is just not not the best situation, but it was a religious school. Every day
James, I hate to interrupt, but we're on the verge of a full-scale revolt in the chat. If you don't get to Peterson soon, people are going to melt.
Understood. Well, yes, but this is important, and because people melt, I think all of the context is important. Okay. And if I just start saying stuff, people are going to have questions and make assumptions. So
okay,
forgive the long-windedness, but this is an attempt to not be taken wrong. This is an attempt to be hated for things I actually think, and not for things that you assume I think. So it's at that point I started investing in atheist literature. The Atheist Reader, God is Not Great, The End of Faith, The God Delusion, where these were actual intelligent people that weren't comedians. They weren't musicians going on about, decapitating Christ. These were actual scientists and intellectuals discussing atheism in a serious way. And their book tours weren't just book tours. That was the age of really prime age of atheist versus theist debates. William Lane Craig is the one that stands out to me most on the theist side, because he was the actual debater that would use rhetorical tricks more than just trying to plainly state his faith. And so I always really hated William Lane Craig because I didn't believe him. I wasn't on his side, and he was cheating by using debate tactics. And that actually helped me learn a lot, both about atheism and religion, by being able to hear the other side. And that hearing Christopher Hitchens debate somebody that was religious was always better than just hearing him give a speech on religion, if that makes sense. The debate was such a great thing. As I said, I watched Bill Maher's show when he would have the celebrities on to discuss issues of the day. I love the debate. It is the debate, and the back and forth is how I learn more than reading, more than talked to. And when the the 2000s meld into the 2010s, Christopher Hitchens dies, and atheism as a thing isn't a thing so much. The new atheists move into politics. And I remember, that one episode where Sam Harris is on Mars show, the current show, Real Time, and they get into it with Ben Affleck over Islam and Muslims, and Affleck is just disgusted. Oh, that's so racist. And I'm on Team Sam Harris in that debate. and things start happening in the culture. I'm in the role-playing industry by this point, and there are things happening in the culture that I think are relevant to the conversations happening. In 2015, when Nicholas Christakis was surrounded by the students at Yale, after, because Christakis' wife, I can't remember her name, had sent out the emails like, you're all adults, you can sort out your conflicts about Halloween costumes on your own. And suddenly Christakis is surrounded by people just screaming at him about he's such an awful fucking person. And I'm thinking, this is important. I see the conversations happening in role playing. This is after Gamergate. This is after the consultancy gate. And it's like, this is the future, isn't it? And then Brett Weinstein at Evergreen. And then we get to the point where I listen to Sam Harris's podcast, and this is getting into 2017. Sam Harris has gone on such an anti-Trump trip that when he gets back to talking about atheism, people are surprised he's an atheist. That's how deep into politics he'd gotten. And so then, okay, who's this guy, Jordan Peterson, that's on the Sam Harris podcast? And they can't talk to each other. They cannot talk to each other. Whatever they were going to discuss, they get hung up because they can't agree on the concept of truth. Sam Harris, is truth are facts. This happens. This is, I'm on Team Harris. Jordan Peterson engages in describing what it later gets tagged as metaphorical truth. Things that are not factually true, but are metaphorically true. And they have the most painful, cringy, why can't you get past this and just go on to the next thing discussion for 2 fucking hours, and I eat this shit up. And I'm thinking, who's this Jordan Peterson guy? And then I learn about the controversy. And then I watch him, I don't think I was a regular Joe Rogan guy at that point watching that podcast. I think he'd already been on Rubin, but that either didn't register or I hadn't watched that yet. And there were things about Peterson that I've ended up finding very intriguing. The fact that how he behaves when he's being protested, his defense of the individual and individualism. How, he says that he'd spent his life studying totalitarianism, both on the left and the right. When he puts all of his university lectures on YouTube. So, into 2017, when he was teaching his classes, a day or two later, the classes would be on YouTube. I watched, mid-level university psychology classes, all of them. And then there's his political speeches. And he would say things like he considers the hammer and sickle to be just as murderous as the swastika. And it's like, I'm already there. Hammers of the God, had the hammer and sickle, on the back cover of the book. That whole thing was basically creating and trashing a very hard left, authoritarian, totalitarian society. That's what Hammers of the God was. So that's I'm already there in 2010, over a half a decade before ever running into someone like Jordan Peterson. And so the ideals of individuality, and that the extreme left is just as toxic and bad as the extreme right. These are things speaking to me. And to me, the deal with the transgender issue in Jordan Peterson, which I think is where people really, really fucking fall off with him. I didn't see that as disparaging trans people. Obviously my perspective is not a trans perspective, But I don't believe in speech laws. And I saw what he did when I went back and watched that and watched his conversations that he had specifically about that when it was the current issue for him locally. He was protesting a speech law. And he said he didn't like being forced to say things, that forced speech was bad. And it's like, that sounds about right. And he's on a local Canadian talk shows on YouTube, and he's talking to a trans person, does not misgender them. And he gave, there was another, I think the McMaster protest where his talk got shut down, and he ended up speaking in the courtyard, being surrounded by people who wanted to hear him talk while the protesters were trying to drown him out after. And how he handled that was inspiring. It was inspiring. And he's saying there are people whose gender identity, he's acknowledging the reality of trans people. And so I'm not seeing someone, I mean, there are people out there, to this day that call trans people it and things. And Peterson is not that. So I assume, so when I see the people protesting him, it's like the things they're protesting don't, to me, match the things that he's actually saying. It's like even then in early 2017, he was more symbol than man, if that makes sense. And that and I found it interesting. I found his story interesting, and there were things that I very much liked about him. But my problem with him is his view on religion. This ephemeral, can't describe it, his stance of what God is. And he becomes the theist in atheist versus theist debates. He's the enemy. He had this one talk debate with Matt Dillahunty where Peterson sounded like a fucking fool. Flat out sounded like a fool. I watched that and think, huge win for Dillahunty. What the fuck is Peterson talking about? But even though I was against Peterson in that interest, what he was saying was still interesting. And then they announced that Peterson and Sam Harris are going to have a series of debates. And I had never been to one of these kind of debates. One of them was going to be in Dublin. There was one in London, but I'd been to London. So it's like, let's go to Dublin. Let's make me and my girlfriend. Let's do a vacation, go to Dublin and watch one of these debates. Holy shit. Even though I'm on Team Harris. The fact that it's these two, and then in the months leading up, it's like, are they going to be able to talk to each other? Are we just going to be 2 hours of watching them on stage going blah, 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 and not being able to say anything? So it was excited. It was like an event. It was like a WWE match. So we get to Dublin, and I remember I wanted to be at the arena. It was, I forget the arena, but they put 8,500 people packed out an arena in Dublin to watch Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson talk to each other. And I thought this was an amazing thing. And I wanted to get there an hour and a half before doors open because, are there going to be protests? I want to see everything. I want the whole experience. We get there. The only people there's no protest, no crowd. There's just a young black guy and an older, I say older, I'm fucking middle-aged now, but, an older woman. So so we go up and get in line behind them, and I say, where are all the angry young white men at? And we all have a laugh because, that's the joke with Peterson. And there's other things like the one thing Peterson is a clinical psychologist. So he was using the platform he now had not to trash trans people, but to talk about his self-help, to talk about his clean your room stuff. And this is at the time that my second marriage was falling apart, that it had been in a bad state for years. And I was really at at the end I couldn't deal with this anymore. And Peterson was saying, just do one thing and fix it, and then do the next thing, just this little thing. And it's like, this is, and it was useful to me. His actual profession and job, he was reaching me through interviews on Rogan and such. And he would talk about all sorts of things in those interviews, but he'd talk about self-help stuff and politics. And it was, and there's one thing he said, I think it was on Rogan, that, no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you. And that just hit me. Like, I'm in a life where so much is going well, but there are things that are making things intolerable. And he's the one that said the thing, no one's coming to save you. You have to do it. And yeah, and that hit me. And I knew the thing, especially after the Kathy Newman interview, that he got heavy fire. He was the guy for men that have daddy issues. Yeah, that's me. My father left in a, you see, I don't want to say violent confrontation. I remember there was shit like the phone ripped out of the wall. I don't remember the details, but the last days of my father being home were rough. I remember that in a vague sense. And then I didn't see him very often after that. And that, and then the boyfriends that would move in after that, so when people are saying, oh, there's some of daddy issues. Well, yeah, that fair enough. I saw this one review of his 12 Rules for Life book that was a joint review with Amy Alcon's Unfuckology, both self-help books, where the criticism of, what is this shit? This is just basic shit. And there's this, and this reviewer was like, you do realize there are thousands and maybe millions of people who didn't get this programming. Who was it that said so many people with the privilege of functional families don't understand some of this shit. And I'm not saying my childhood was especially awful. Really. I mean, I lived in the projects, and I knew people in my neighborhood with shit a lot worse than I had to deal with. But Peterson was, I got real, in addition to intellectual masturbation, I got actual value from the things he was saying. And, going to Dublin, being able to meet him and meeting Sam Harris, and I wasn't that familiar with Douglas Murray. He was the moderator to keep things going. But, it meant a big deal, because at that point I'd also lost a lot of weight. Again, the clean your room, do one thing, do something simple. You have control over that simple one thing now, than doing something else. I credit that with helping me lose the 50 pounds that I had lost for a good while, and that was Peterson. And I didn't understand. Okay, so now we get to that was in the summer of 2018, and that weekend, that whole Dublin trip, not just being able to see the debate with Harris and Peterson, but the whole trip is like one of the best weeks of my life, of my entire life. That was just so great, taking that vacation. So then November 2018, is doing a date in Peterson's doing a date in Helsinki, and I was like, we're going, right? And, again, I always show up early. I show up early to movies and concerts before doors open. So I show up early, and there are the people. The people are lining up, and Peterson isn't there. He pulls up in his car, the car dropping him off in front of the venue, not back in any loading area, in front of the venue. And the people swarm him. And it, yes, is mostly younger men. But hearing the stories, we're thanking him. Like, there's this one guy in a suit saying, I've never really worn a suit before, but I'm trying to fix my life. I'm trying to get a good job. I'm trying to not be the mess that I was. And seeing all the people thanking him for things, for inspiration, not to be a woman hater, not to shit all over trans people, but actually being helped to improve their life, to be better people in whatever, and that's my experience in getting to shake his hand again and say, thank you for what you did for me. And so afterwards, he talks for 90 minutes about raising children, which is complete do not apply for my life. And he's not really talking politically. I mean, I think talked about some of the things that Lukianoff and Haidt had talked about in Coddling of the American Mind. And once again, just dropping names that the people who know are either going to go, but and it's weird. And the thing with the local the Finnish public TV station was there like shooting footage for a documentary on Peterson, and this is in the resulting thing. I think was illustrative of how he's portrayed in the media versus how he is. It's funny because I'm there in the footage. They show him. Maybe it was staged for TV where he's going to show up and be swarmed by his fans. You see me there, but also my girlfriend's there. And the look on her face in the background, just like, what am I doing here? Yeah, the fact that that's on TV was funny, but the documentary included an interview with him, and the front of the interview, the very start of this documentary special about Peterson, is Peterson saying, I want to teach young men to really harness their anger, something to that effect. And it's just like, oh my God, this guy's trying to, get people turning fucking nuts. It's like half an hour, 40 minutes into the thing where they play the full clip, where I want, young men to learn to harness their anger and to, focus it into something useful so they can do better for themselves and for their families and their community. And it's like, you motherfuckers. You hear that first clip and you can easily think this man is a monster. But then you hear the full clip, it's something completely different. Right? Am I insane in interpreting it that way? So what happens is, I have another, so, he's there, Dave Rubin is opening for him. I was a bit slow in the uptake, but I have a story if you want to hear it about how I went to the meet and greet with Dave Rubin and suddenly felt like I was in some sort of fucking cult meeting that I wasn't expecting. Well, again, I'd watched a bunch of his stuff, and he'd introduced me to interesting people, and even the people I didn't like, it was, still understanding different points of view. So I used to be an interviewer and have a metal zine. I wanted to talk shop at a meet and greet with Dave Rubin. So I can tell that story if you want. But, so then it's the meet and greet with Peterson where we get to take a picture. And I've got the book because, I'd already started on this plan of, take celebrities of whatever stripe and have them giving the thumbs down while I'm holding the book. And it's not just me being a glib asshole to say if I had a book with me and I met O.J. Simpson on the street, I was like, O.J., can we get a picture? Because it's just like celebrity. It's not, the endorsement where everybody that likes the book has to like the person. It wasn't like that. Like Jimmy Carr was playing just a few weeks later in the same venue, and I brought a book with me to the Jimmy Carr show, hoping that maybe I'd see Jimmy Carr afterwards. Like, hey, Mr. Carr, can we do this thing? It wasn't a push Peterson on people. He was just the celebrity I was in front of at the moment. And here's how you see how my mind works, maybe in relation to how people see Peterson and how clueless I was and am. That when we took the picture, I told Peterson, man, there are people in my, there are people that are going to hate this. There are a lot of leftists in the role playing industry. Famous last fucking words those were, right? Even, I'd even taken the picture with Ruben, and Ruben's like, I'm not ending my career, am I? But I said that in my mind, the people I was talking about, I considered to be the RPG net nutsos, the kind of people who fall all over themselves. It's like, oh my god, there's a succubus in Numenera. Oh my god, that's the fuck. Those are the kind of people I thought I was talking about when I was made that joke to Peterson. I had no idea that the whole world had basically become RPG Net. I'd missed that. I'd completely missed it. I didn't realize it. I completely missed that, and I had, on Google Plus over the years, and even in my blog, when people were talking about different things, I was always pointing out that I'm not like you people. I believe different things. So it didn't occur to me that there would have been people in my circle that were capable of being offended, let alone actually angry, that I would have taken a picture with a controversial person that had apparently weird ideas. The whole thing just completely, I didn't know that people were going to realize who he fucking was. I wasn't sure. So the entire thing completely blindsided me because, again, he's what he is to other people. Or should I say, he's very different things to different groups of people. And I was completely blindsided by the whole thing. Yeah, and I still, it's like I understand not liking him because even, I could say, I've been saying, watching these debates, I I wasn't on his side. There's plenty of stuff that I think, some of this religious stuff, I think he's wackadoodle, and but as far as the taking the picture with him, that's like I mentioned William Lane Craig earlier. And if I ran into that man, even I thought, oh, you son of a bitch, it's like he's been part of conversations and debates that I've found valuable. I would have no problem going up to William Lane Craig and shaking his hand and saying, I don't agree with you on anything, but you've been part of these conversations that I've found important. Thank you. Can we get a picture? Right? Is that is that an insane thing to say? Am I going to see plastered? Jim wants a picture with William Lane Craig, that motherfucker. So my view on people with divergent views, I guess you could say, it's my relationship to these sort of things is obviously far different than the community's. And again, I don't know because I was tearing up talking about some of the effect of some of the stuff Peterson had on me, and what am I going to do? Pretend that didn't happen? Pretend that wasn't real? What do you do? What do you do with that? And Zach would be telling me, read another book, the thing, and it's like, okay, well, which one's going to be okay? The Nicholas Christakis book, or Steven Pinker. I know that, I remember when you did your post about Peterson and you didn't like him, and you mentioned Pinker, and then I immediately posted a picture with Pinker, one of Pinker's book. But I even, I even buy books. If someone is disfavored by the crowd, I'll pick up the book when I've got money. That's the thing. There have been people that are bad people that I thought the phenomenon was interesting. So I buy the book and read the book and think, oh, this guy's a great big nothing burger. And it doesn't go any further than that. There are things where I've got looking at some of the books here where I want to read the stuff. I haven't gotten to them yet. I don't know if this person's the son of a bitch that he's talking about other people. He's like, is this person seen as a son of a bitch online? Is he really? I haven't read the book yet, but the book's on the shelf because I'm interested, not in how they fucking deal with themselves on Twitter and in podcasts, but how they think when they sit down to actually write their story. And that's how I see those things. I follow all sorts of things in that sort of public cultural commentary sphere. Some of the people I follow are malignant. Some of the people that are seen as malignant, or people treat them like they're malignant, I like very much. Because I have my own individual tastes, and that people can't just say, oh, you like that guy? Well, he's an asshole, and then you move on. I don't understand why these things go beyond that. Is that thorough enough? Have I not addressed something as part of that conversation?
Well, you could explicitly connect that whole Peterson thing to the business you got from Kyle afterwards.
Okay. Well, I post the picture with Peterson. And again, it was just the Peterson giving the thumbs down while I'm in front going, with the book. And it's like I got a picture with Jordan Peterson, and the results were not as expected, or things didn't go as expected. It's the same thing I did with Santa Claus that fucking year. That's how serious.
That asshole. He's problematic as fuck.
Exactly.
Canceled.
Yeah, that's exactly. I did the same thing with fucking Santa Claus. It's just whatever celebrity's in front of me as a publicity tool. And Kyle's apparently, very offended, and other people like there's one person that won't work with me anymore was pissed. She's like, explain yourself, and that's the opening of the thing. And it basically came down to, as far as I'm concerned, of the negative stuff that Peterson says about trans issues was concerning this one law that he felt was compelled speech. And there's and there's arguments that he's not even correct about what that law was, which makes me think, then what the fuck is this all even about? But I said, it's, look, I use people's pronouns. I don't misgender people. I really make an effort not to. Even when I'm with other people talking about someone else and they're using the wrong pronouns, I use the ones that I understand the person to want. So when Peterson says, I won't use your damn words, he's not even meaning that literally, because I've seen him on tape using people's preferred pronouns. But as a political protest stance, that's what I said. It's like, look, if you misgender someone, you're an asshole, but I don't think you should end up in court over that. And for that's I've heard enough, and then they're gone out of my life. And it's just like, and I prepared a bit because I knew, like, and Kyle, oh Jesus, see, there's stuff here that I don't want to say because some of the stuff wasn't quite so pretty, so I'll leave that out. But basically, he just invoices me for outstanding work, and there was like a small advance I'd given him for a future project, and he had subtracted the advance from the money he was owed, but I went ahead and paid it even with the advance for the work that wasn't going to be done. Because again, I had money then, and I didn't want there to be hard feelings. It's like, okay, you do you, good luck with everything you're going to do. That's what I told him when I paid him more than he was actually looking for. And then I'm told that he's posting, he's doing the posts everywhere with the picture of me. And I'm just like, oh, fuck off. And that's where the whole break with Kyle started. And, he didn't even didn't, there was no discussion, no anything, just like, okay, I'm done, and then I'm going to shit all over you online. And it's just, I don't know. I'm going to like people that other people don't like. I'm going to not like people that other people like. And we're all individuals, and we're all going to do that. We're going to have, yeah, that's to me the way being human works. And yeah, it's but the things I see, where people are basically acting like Peterson, some sort of Richard Spencer type figure. That you know, nonsense. As far as I don't want to litigate every little Jordan Peterson thing, but the worst things that people ascribe to him, I don't see. And I'm pretty sure that I've put in more hours listening to him talk than the people who are pissed off at him. So,
Well, we've been at this a while, and I've got to go to bed at some point. I don't know about everybody else involved in this.
okay, we could put a time limit on, but after all that, I'm sure somebody has questions. And if you could pick a few good ones, because I don't want to duck or dodge things. I don't want to
there
just.
aren't a lot of questions developing based upon that, actually. So, yeah. So if you've got some additional questions, now's the time to get them in, or I guess we could circle back around if you absolutely had to get a question answered that we didn't get to previously. I tried to record them all, so maybe we can field some of them in Facebook, possibly. How will you survive? How about thanks for being real with us, James?
Okay, well, if the chat is fairly pleasant, how many people we got watching right now? So what are my ratings?
56 watching right now,
56,
with 34 thumbs up and 5 thumbs down.
Okay.
Jeff, do you sleep on the left side or the right side? I sleep on the left side.
Your left side or the left side of the bed?
Both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, this is a crazy world that we're living in, and the idea that I'm not on with the idea that your people you don't like politically are somehow bad. The people that I listen to most of all, and I know this is unforced error territory I'm going into now, are mostly disaffected liberals and never Trump style Republicans. And that's the centrist area of that's where I live. Basically, intellectually, I guess you could say. But I just, I aspire to be a role playing trauma, so aspiring intellectual aspirations seems ill placed, but yeah.
So Dr. Pat reports while we were doing this, his old review of the ref guide got a very nasty comment. So there's already fallout. Isn't that amazing? People go to work so fast. So let's see here. Off topic, are there any Easter eggs that you are waiting for us to still find? Is this a dumb question?
Oh God. The problem is once a book is finished, honestly, by the time a book actually comes out, I am so sick of looking at it. Because of the process of the writing and the reviewing and how many times you're going through trying to find typos and you never find all of them, that by the time the book arrives, it's just like, okay, are all the pages in the right order? And it's like, okay. And then it could be a good long while before I ever crack the book open again. So there are probably Easter eggs out there that I don't even remember. And I know people throw in Easter eggs that I don't notice, because the things that I look for when reviewing other people's manuscripts, like when I find out that Kelvin's been putting a running joke in his books, and I was just like, I completely missed it. I had no fucking idea. The fans found it.
I think there are a couple of dumb literary references in Broodmother that I've never seen anybody mention online, but it hardly counts as a Easter egg so much as me ripping off other people. What other publishers are you a fan of?
Honestly, with everything that's going on, I have completely disconnected from the role playing scene, and that's not good for what I do, but it's like necessary. There's enough shit that lands at my door that going and looking for more isn't healthy, and I don't. So what do So I haven't been buying role playing stuff. And, if I mention people that I like, am I now making them a target? You're liked by a bad person. Fuck you, Yeah. But
Giant fan of Lancer, as I recall, right?
I'd never heard of them. Honestly,
Me
I'd never
neither.
heard of them. Which, again, if I'm not following shit, why would I have? But it's not like even in the before times that was a name I was familiar with. People had to tell me what that was. I was like, oh, okay.
But it's a big enough scene. It's not a scene anymore. It's a series of overlapping niches.
And I just wish people could be left alone to explore their own niche without fucking with other people.
Yeah. It seems so simple. Jesus Christ, you don't like Kyle's module? Don't buy it, don't read it, don't run it, don't use it at your table. What the fuck? But some people live for the drama.
Yeah, I remember, let me get one point of bragging actually in this fucking live stream. I was taking honors English classes in high school. And one year, you show up first day of class, and there's the teacher that, for some reason, in the opening speech to the students that year, she decides to go on a fucking rant about Married with Children. I'm a good Christian. There's this garbage on TV like Married with Children. It's like, my family's not like that. I wouldn't want anyone watching that in my house, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, change the channel? Fuck. What is this? What is the point? What is the point of that? Yeah.
Right. Okay, so about the new books, you're still planning on giving 48 hours notice before the release goes live?
Yeah, what'll happen? Yeah, what'll happen is with this delivery that happens Friday, I'll know that everything's okay with that, or basically things are gonna go on sale on Monday. I'll just know whether or not the slipcase is part of it. Unfortunately, countries, there haven't been a lot of countries opening up as far as the coronavirus restrictions on what we're allowed to send here from Finland. So that delay and gamble did not pay off, unfortunately. But on Friday, I'll be able to confirm and have pictures of absolutely everything that's going on sale. That'll happen Monday. I guess I'll wait till Friday before announcing a time. Yeah. And I hope that even after all this, even after realizing that I have views that are not shared by other people, that I have opinions that are very unique to me, that I'm as much of a fuck up as anyone that's ever been on the face of the earth. I still hope that you like Lamentations, and I still hope that you want to support Lamentations. Not just me, but everyone I work with, or even not everyone I work with, some of the people I work with. If you don't like somebody that's on the Lamentations roster, you don't buy their shit, and they don't get the benefit of any sales. So I hope you like somebody on the Lamentations roster enough to buy, so those people benefit from your support. And I really hope I'm able to do this for many years in the future. You know, being both clever and stupid and releasing good things and releasing things that weren't as good as I hoped, and just being a fucking human being, dealing with other human beings, and realizing we're just all stupid primates. How did Christopher Hitchens put it? Our adrenaline glands are too big and our frontal lobes too small. That's life on Earth.
Let's see here. After I brought up Genital Grinder last time, you suggested Books of Blood. While I wait for that to arrive, do you have any other suggestions? This is Jared Tibbs.
Oh God, in that vein, as far as that extreme violence and gore and sex stuff, look into bizarro fiction. That's the genre, the genital grinder. There are things like Edward Lee has published some stuff that's very sex and death. I'm not I'm not a huge fan, but it's that same sort of niche. I forget the author, but there's this wonderfully deranged book called "Baby's First Book of Fucked Up Shit," I believe is the title. Yeah, and yeah.
Okay, so there apparently it came up on Reddit that some people were interested in LOTFP fiction. I think we talked about this last stream, but I can't recall.
Okay, if I was going to commission someone to do fiction, I would want someone to do actual Bumblebee Bandit novels. That kind of over the top, ridiculous romance novel, Harlequin romance novel style kind of adventure garbage. Basically, because I think it would be funny to have a whole book written in that style for the Bumblebee Bandit. As far as serious LOTFP fiction, I don't know how that could work because I don't want to write fiction as such, and I don't know how I would get someone that would be on board without being so heavy-handed in the direction and editing that it would just become a tedious nightmare for everybody involved. Especially for the first releases of a fiction line, it would have to be correct and right and really represent LOTFP. So how do you do that without it being like basically a corporate interference shell of a thing and not the author's story that they want to tell? So although, and then I was but then I have been talking about releasing other fiction. Like I talked about The Willows, that I was wanting to do an LOTFP fancy deluxe illustrated edition of The Willows. Unfortunately, in the EU, that book is still under copyright. The copyright doesn't expire until January 2022, and it's oh god, it's it was so weird contacting a literary agent whose name was listed on an agency's website as dealing with the rights of an author that's been dead almost 70 years. It's like, if they never answered me, but even if we could come to a deal, who gets that money? I guess he's got an estate or descendants or something, but it seems real weird to be paying a fee to a dead guy like that. But that's how it works. So it looks like
The answer is the literary agent and the lawyers of the estate get that money.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on that.
I personally think you should do a reprint of the Principia Discordia, but that's just my little opinion. Let's see here. Is there going to be a Gingerbread Princess re-release or reprint, or however you want to phrase that?
See, I don't know what's actually public and what's not. So I don't know. I don't want to talk to Zarkov. That's what I have as an answer to that.
Let's see. Dr. Pat says, Jeff, I had big trouble running Broodmother Sky Fortress online with the maps. I ended up having to draw my own map for the Wretches sublevel. I'm so sorry that happened to you, Dr. Pat. I have to admit, I never think about how will this work in online play.
Yeah.
Never. And maybe it's something I need to start thinking about when I'm writing stuff. Let's see. There was a question here about, is there an Appendix N for Lamentations?
There will be, actually. Again, the referee book, as it inches closer and closer to. I built the appendices so that there will be an Appendix N. It will be healthily populated, but there will be an Appendix N concerning influential fiction, fiction to get into the Lamentation spirit, movies, music, and books. Yeah. But if there's one outstanding right now in the Facebook group, just every so often, people are like, "Oh, what Lamentation? What movies remind you of Lamentations of the Flame Princess?" And it always goes exactly the same. Field in England, The Witch, and then someone's got to say, "As above, so below." And then I have to pipe in with Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter, the old Hammer
Oh, I
movie.
love that flick.
Yeah, that's very, very Lamentations.
Also, I think the original Doctor Who episode, The Visitation, would be worth watching.
I don't know if I've seen that one. Although a lot of the Doctor Who monsters, I think, work as Lamentations monsters. And what was the one? Oh, I forget the name of the episode. It's the 10th Doctor,
Mm-hmm.
the season with Donna Noble, where they're on
Okay.
the leisure planet, where the Doctor is taking the tour through the diamond landscape, and Donna's not
Oh,
with
yeah.
him.
Yes, that is creepy as crap.
That's creepy as shit. And then if you're looking for Doctor Who, that would work. Some of the stuff like Brain of Morbius and things like that, I think would also work. Cause how the hell did that get on?
That whole gothic arc
Robert
of the
Holmes
Fourth
era.
Doctor era.
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah,
Captain Kronos comic short run a few years ago. I didn't
missed
know
it.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't bought the Captain Kronos novel. It's got a completely different ending. That doesn't end in a sword fight.
Let's see here. There was something. Can you include an unkeyed map and tokens in future PDFs for online play?
What do you mean?
Another great idea that, again, I never think about that sort of thing when doing any design work.
What do you mean tokens? I mean, I get what unkeyed map means. I don't know what tokens means. So, how out of touch am I?
Are you referring to the sort of thing you do in? I can't even remember the name of the online play environment all the 5e people use. Somebody please help us out here. Tokens are like minis, little pictures of the characters.
Okay. Okay. Now I see with the stuff that's been put together now, it would be a lot of extra expense to go in and add pages with unlabeled maps.
Fantasy Grounds of Roll20. Those were the things I was thinking of. Whether people were looking for assets for that.
Yeah, but as far as tokens, it's like, oh Jesus. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all of this is completely foreign to me as far as usage and what it would look like, and then especially additional art assets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's additional expense right there. That's not just reprinting some of the content with labels not on it. That's additional expense. And yeah, I don't know about that. I would have to learn what the fuck it is and how to do it before deciding whether that's an expense I want to add on. Yeah.
I have been collecting some art on the side with the eye towards some paper minis in the future. That would be, just a little free thing. Let's see. There was a really great, interesting question, at least for me. If there's a typo in the book, do you have to reprint the whole dang book to fix it?
Because again, I get the proofs and I look over the proofs, but it's the same text that I've seen a million times, and if I haven't seen the typo there, and then I get thousands of books printed, and then it's like, oh shit, typo, fuck, that lives there forever now. And then if not a lot of the books get reprinted, and it's funny because when we do reprints, we find and fix typos, and somehow always introduce new ones. I don't know how the fuck that works.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, no book's going to be perfect. I'm sorry, that's just the way book production works.
Yeah. I take so much joy when other people talk about receiving their books and talk about the typos, or how you get your author copies or whatever, and you just look through it and the first thing you notice is a typo, and it's like, oh, it's not just me, it's universal, thank goodness. Because I feel so bad, but it's inevitable. Always it will happen, yet I still feel like a complete failure every time I see it.
Yeah, let's see here. Our humble moderator says, "Don't forget to tell everybody to like, share, subscribe."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Not that I think that YouTube will ever put ads in these things, but if we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can put ads on the feed and on the videos, and that can be another source of income for at least the videos where I'm not swearing up a storm and talking about controversial things.
Which would be none of the videos.
Which would be I don't know, because I see. I mean, I got a green screen here. I'm wanting to do more Lamentations promotional videos that are a bit more creative. I invested in a camera rig early last year, and things. I had released a couple of videos, but things really never got going. And it's like this unused assets are stupid, and the thing with green screens, though, because I ordered like this really cheap thing that's actually really good, but the green screen is just a cloth. And when you look at like green screen setups from like other YouTubers and stuff, it looks like it's like a solid wall of green screen stuff. And here it's just a hanging cloth that needs ironing. And it's like, how do other people get their perfect flat? It's like, Jesus, I got the cheap ass version, which I suppose I should get the cheap ass version in my situation now, but I consider it an investment for the future, because even if the sales of the upcoming books fall flat on their ass, I have to be able to still promote and do things. So again, this was a cheap setup, but even even came with like a light setup here, and yeah. So I hope to produce some entertaining content with that fairly soon. But again, I don't know how any of this shit works yet. So I'm sure it'll look like shit.
So there's a call from a couple of people in the chat for Flame Princess minis, possibly via Bad Squiddo.
Okay, what you're going to have to do is get somebody that does minis to license from me, because I'm not getting in the minis business. I don't use minis. I know nothing about the business or nothing about manufacturing. I'm not getting into that business myself. So find somebody that's interested in going into business with Lamentations at this late date, and see if we can get a deal done. But that's the only way it's going to happen.
Can we get T-shirts in the vein of the old Danzig tour shirts that had "God don't like it" printed on the back? Lancer don't like it. I don't think they need to be elevated any more than they have, personally.
Yeah. That I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I definitely don't think I trash people on LOTFP merchandise. I say that. Have I done it? I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe future books should include bad reviews from people who hate LOTFP on the back of the book.
Yeah, that's. Well, the thing about that is, it's like the official or unofficial slogan of the company, because fuck you, that's why. We lifted that off of a bad review of Carcosa. Like, there were all, the complaint was there were all these things with nothing tying them together. Why is this thing there? Why is that thing there? No explanation, because fuck you, that's why. And it's like, oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I
thought it was the one good point made in that review, as I recall. And it's like, that's exactly right.
And if you like that, I think Noble Knight still has the hoodies I didn't sell at Gen Con that one year, and there were a lot of them, because you don't sell a lot of units selling from under the table. But my hoodie, I still wear that. This time of year, we're going into mid-July, and it's pretty cool out. We had a little heat snap, but then it's cool out. I'm wearing my hoodie out whenever I go out, because fuck you, that's why. I wear it every spring, every fall. That's my outside gear. That's that's how people see me whenever I walk out my door. If it's not the middle of summer, or too cold for a hoodie in winter. That's the kind of person I am. What's the proper way in polite society way of doing things? Poke. I'm built for trouble, but seemingly not built to deal with it when it really shows up on my door. I'm built for mischief, maybe I should say. I'm built for mischief, and sometimes I mistake that for being built for trouble. Yeah, God, see, now I'm thinking of all these things that I didn't say, that I'd planned to say in relation to other things, but, we've been at this for 3.5 hours now, so maybe going into and this thing about this other controversial thing, let's not even bring it up. So are there any other questions? It's now 7:30 in the morning here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a bunch of new questions here. I'm just going through here. I think... Oh, has Alucard Finch signed already for another project after Big Puppet?
He actually has some... he's going to have some content in the ref book, I think. I think that was him. I have to double check, because some of the ref book stuff, I hadn't looked at that section in quite a while, so I think he's got some stuff there. But and has he? Because I think he's made a pitch. So, but I haven't gone too deep into it, because I've been dealing with all this other stuff the past week or so. Yeah. So it's doors open. He doesn't seem to be aghast at the idea, but again, for all I know, once people take a look at this, then there's going to be me and my right hand left of LOTFP. So, or, well, Jeff, you don't seem, you haven't rage quit, so maybe I'll still have one person willing to do stuff with me now and again.
No, you're going to have to try harder to get me to quit, I'm afraid.
Why do people keep saying that like a fucking challenge?
Just got home from work, need a quick recap of absolutely everything discussed. I'll wait. Thanks, Zachary. That was great. Guess what? You're in luck. There's going to be a recorded version of this up online very shortly.
Yeah, the stream will stay up as a thing. Can't wait for the comments, which I shouldn't fucking look at. Yeah, yeah. Well, the quick recap. I'm weird, and I believe weird things. And lots of other people seem to not like the weird things I believe and make efforts to make sure nobody can like the weird things I believe. That's the state of the world, the end. Is that an accurate recap?
That's pretty good, I thought. I was about when you first started to say to recap, I'm like, oh no, we're going to be here another 45 minutes, and you did really well considering.
Yeah. So that's winding day. See, I'm worried here because that first part, when I read the statement, there were questions out the asshole asking about that. But then when I went into the thing later, no questions, and it's just like, oh god, that's for some reason that sounds
The
like a
fact that there weren't a million questions about the Peterson situation.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you did a really good job of contextualizing the issue. I know I tried to hurry you at one point, but
yeah,
it was worth the development in the end.
yeah. I mean, again, people are probably going to take snippets, but I did think it was important to say the full thing because it is such a contentious issue, and people it causes rage in people, and it's yeah, it's difficult shit, and yeah, I so many other things that I'm tempted to go on that aren't LOTFP related, but are similar in situation that but what yeah it would take too long and it's not relevant directly to me, and I am trying to
Oh,
avoid
okay.
becoming the cultural YouTube commentator type, but just because of this past week it seemed like let's just sit down and do this and then deal with it for the rest of my fucking life.
Yeah, it would be interesting to do one of these and just talk about game shit for once. Um, will there be any Zarkov collaborations in the future?
I certainly hope so. My last communication with him wasn't of a "fuck you, you asshole" type, so I'm hoping.
Will there be any future Patrick Stewart books?
I'm. Let's just say I would be perfectly open to it.
Okay.
Leave it
You
there.
mentioned Dillahunty. Were you an Atheist Experience fan?
Uh, um, no, no. I tried watching some of those, but the episode I watched a couple episodes, and there wasn't the quality of color. It was like basically going through atheism 101 over and over and over, like these people calling into the show had just that day discovered the concept of atheism and thought they had the perfect slam dunk to it, and it's just it wasn't enriching conversation, that kind of back and forth to me. So that's not a slam on Dillahunty. It just seemed to be the format of the show where they're wanting to talk to people who haven't debated the issue, or in some cases feel like they've thought about it so much before. And that I got better things to do.
So, question about reprints of three products. Will there be reprints of Pale Lady, Single Small Cut, or Thulian Echoes?
um, Pale Lady and Thulian Echoes. It's going to be the same answer from as Gingerbread. That's Zarkov. Single small cut, I don't think so. I mean, that was like a really tiny small thing. Just as I don't there's not enough there to do like a reprint. it's What was that? That was like a crowdfund bonus thing. So reprinting it as a full product for sale. That no, I don't think a product of that size makes sense for that.
So here's a fun little thing that I thought I'd share. So since I had this in, I had clicked, reminder on for this live stream in my YouTube account. I got a couple of recommendations over the course of the day of old interviews you had done,
Ah,
and
okay.
I listened to one of them. I'm sorry, was I worrying you with the setup there?
No, when you said you
Um,
got YouTube recommendations, I was like, oh, what garbage is YouTube associating me with? That
No,
was
it was
just
just more
me. Fuck.
Lamentations and Reggie content.
Yeah.
And one of them was from I think it was a German con in 2018, like RCP or something like that is how it was labeled. You were being interviewed by a
RPC.
young lady,
Yeah.
RPC, and this I laughed out loud and then I had to go check my bookshelf because you had mentioned that the random esoteric generator, which obviously is the short version of the name, the original version you'd only sold about 19 copies of.
That was a rough guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not very many at all though.
Okay. Because I'm just like, holy shit. Because I'm like, I bought that book. I had to go and double check that I had got the original version, and I had. But what also struck me as funny is that my first real publication was Asteroid 1618, an adventure for Encounter Critical, and it sold, I think, 17 copies. So, um,
Yeah. Well, that also gets a bit complicated because once I got my author copies of the Goodman Games version of the book, I
mhm.
was I was I was selling those, but putting in copies of the original generator in with them. So there are copies out there that aren't from the original batch that sold. So
Mm. Okay, so I'm not sitting on a giant gold pile of a collector's item. No,
well,
I
you
just thought
might.
it was
What's Noble Knight selling it for? $10,000. Some of this old stuff gets ridiculous. Yeah.
yes.
I mean, I saw that Red and Pleasant Land, someone on Amazon was asking $1,000. Did I read that post right?
Holy shit.
Yeah. No, asking for it is different than
Than
people
getting it.
paying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that's an algorithm gone insane and not what people are actually getting for the book.
Let's see. Other different numbers are coming out. I just sold it for 2,000. Zach, you just sold a copy of Red and Pleasant Land for $2,000.
Well, if that's the case, then all these years I've been seriously mispricing that fucking
Maze.
book.
Yeah, I don't doubt you. I'm just like, holy shit! I can't let my wife know this.
Thank goodness you're wearing headphones.
Yeah, I figured you'd be selling signed copies. Why wouldn't you be?
So yeah. So what's going on in the chat? We're getting some dead air here. I don't
Yeah, I'm
I know
sorry.
everyone else has places to be. I don't, but at the very least, if there has to be stuff going on to keep us here.
Right. Well, right now Zach is telling us maybe we should publish more Zack Smith since he's sells so well. Um, we haven't seen any uh, new questions in a while now.
No new questions. Again, I haven't been looking at the YouTube page at all. This program, once I figured it out, we're using Stage 10 to have our little conference thing here, and I came in late. The story everyone wants to hear. I took a shower before doing the live stream, didn't notice I was completely out of conditioner, so spent 20 freaking minutes untangling knots in my hair instead of preparing. I really thought I was going to get a proper Lamentations watermark here, so we can say, this live stream has nothing to do with Lamentations of the Flame Princess as a joke because of the watermark last time.
Are you looking at artist style when looking for someone to do the art for the book, for a book? Which book? I'm not sure I followed that.
Yeah, well, these days I'm again sensitive, maybe oversensitive, because I've gotten some nasty responses trying to reach out to people now and again. So I don't like it. I don't like having a stable that I fall back on time after time after time. But that's realistically what I'm dealing with here. I will, authors will often bring suggestions of their own to the table, and that I'll go for. That certainly, if an author has someone in mind, I can reach out and add new people to the stable, hopefully. But as far as my first instinct is, I can afford more photorealistic looking stuff. I fall back on Bouchard. I need more stylized or quickie stuff. Kelvin's right there. Yeah, but yeah, oh boy, I'm not. Oh, wait, you're moving again. I think I heard you. Do you hear me?
Okay, testy, 1, 2, 3.
Yes. Okay, so we're back. We had a thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, things got wonky on my end, and I couldn't tell if it was really me or the whole thing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We often ask about authors, but are there any new artists for upcoming projects? Did we get to that one?
Yeah. Upcoming. Oh, see, I don't have all of the. Because for that one I used Bouchard. That one was Kelvin. That one is Gonzalo, so he's new for the Fermentum book. Aaron Alfrey, this is his first full project on Big Puppet. And I'm trying to think for Job's book. Oh, what's the guy's name? I don't have the thing here. He's bringing someone new to the table. Someone I think that had been nominated for a Grammy actually in packaging design, but I can't remember his name. But I hope that comes off without a hitch, because that'll be a big deal when Job's next book comes out. Who else for artists? Yeah, as far as brand new artists, I don't think there's any on the table at the moment.
Yeah. Next question. Why is your art so much better than wizards who have the ability to outbid you?
Fuck if I know. It amazes me. It amazes me. I think it's just. I think it's. Yeah, I don't know.
I think
Uh,
it's the corporate design process depresses artists,
maybe
basically.
because I'm wanting, because I'm thinking, what's the exciting thing we can do with the art that I'm directly involved in anyway? It's like what's the visual basis? Or sometimes the thing I do, the visuals inspire the rest of the project sometimes. So it's just I'm thinking about it. I'm a director thinking about it cinematically,
Yeah,
or
King
maybe
Brackish says they have a style guide to not offend. It's supposed to be very samey. Yeah, they're delivering a consumer product in a very
yeah.
specific mode. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Um, Has anyone approached you to buy LOTFP or invest in it?
I wish they would. I could use an investor that says, "I like what you do, kid. Here's $1 million." There's got to be some rich motherfucker who's got
Sure.
more money than sense that says, "Ah, I'm having some trouble. Fuck it, do your shit, disrupt the world." That'd be great. As far as buying LOT, what would you buy? Because a lot of the more valuable assets are actually owned by the creator, and I don't know that my personal assets is. I mean, maybe if a movie studio is wanting to freaking adapt the Grinding Gear or some shit, I don't see, I don't see what much there is to buy. The actual Lamentations name. It always was in the best of times a niche tabletop role playing brand. What's
Yeah, what you need is a Rick Rubin or a Billy Corgan, right?
Yeah, Rick Rubin invested in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and Corrigan's doing the NWA thing these days. Wrestling, yay!
Who's the one for the next Antithesis book?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the name I can't think of off the top of my head, but I think he was involved in a Grammy nominated, for packaging in art category. I think that's the guy. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, whose name I can't remember.
Okay.
Benjamin something. Yeah, I can't remember.
Game related question. Holy crap. I've been thinking about removing Turn Undead from my game. Since the EC playtest rules take out clerics, have you noticed Undead becoming scarier in your own games?
No, because the what I do is I fold the cleric spell list into the magic user spell list. Now, all those spells are much more rare because the thing with the cleric spells is like all of them are available. If you have a cleric, you can pick whichever one. But if they're part of the magic user spell list, there's a very good chance that a beginning party isn't going to have any damage, healing spells, and that turn undead wouldn't be available to them. So the way I've been playing for quite some time, it hasn't affected anything.
Yeah, if you're picking spells randomly from the entirety of the list in the rulebook, Turn Undead just becomes 1 in a 200 something chance of getting, right?
Yeah. So undead's always been proper scary, but I don't. Yeah, but I don't use things like level drain and things like that in like ghoul or paralyzation, like random undead powers. It's usually when I'm using undead, they're just shambling corpse type things, and their big advantage is some sort of damage resistance, because the kinds of wounds that would hurt a living person, dead things don't give a crap about. So you can hack them a good bit and they don't give a shit. So that's the main thing about undead. Plus, no morale checks. If you're using morale, that becomes maybe the biggest problem with undead, is that they're never going to retreat. That they're going to continue on, to the last, no retreat, no
Yeah.
surrender, forever.
And if you're not using morale, you totally should try it out.
Yeah.
The what do you think of a book that's just LOTFP artwork? Zachary Hargenrader, I hope I got that right, suggested that as a cool thing, possibly.
The problem is doing an LOTFP work is renegotiating rights and what's that for like every single piece, and how to divide that up, putting things in a separate project. And a lot of the art, because it's done digitally, it's done to done it's done at the dimensions it's going to be printed at. So it's not like you can present an art book that's a coffee table book that has LOTFP art in it, because then it would be all pixelated to shit, because it was all done 300 DPI at an A5 size. And if I wanted bigger art done for a bigger piece, that would cost me more, because digital art, the level of detail and the size, it's all related in how much the artists are charging. So that creates a problem for an art book. It's not like the glory days of Dungeons and Dragons art, where they're doing real drawings on real paper, making real paintings, and you can, there are other options of what you do with them later on and how you reprint the art. That's just not the case in a large proportion, if not the vast majority of art that I've commissioned.
Okay. So, game-related question: any new house rules you're using that have not been published yet?
Yeah. I had the idea of like an arms and equipment guide kind of thing. Air quotes totally necessary. Trying out new ways of doing encumbrance, and that look. I don't know. Encumbrance is always a big pain in the ass, because I want it to be part of the planning and logistics and have it matter, but I've never figured out a way to make it matter that isn't a complete pain in the ass. I think the encumbrance system that I put together for the LOTFP rulebook is an improvement over previous encumbrance systems, but it's still in itself encumbering during play.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there?
Yes.
And I can't. Yeah, I can't improve on it, and I'm trying, but something that
I've wondered for years whether a card-based system would work, but then that's going to take over the table space, and suddenly the game's about encumbrance.
Yeah, it takes over the space. Yeah, I thought of that. And does that mean you need do you really need a custom card for any weird shit that's going to show up in the game? Is like, okay, I'll take that keg of beer. It's like, here, scribble, scribble, scribble card. Or so if you have elements in an adventure that there's all this stuff, do they all need their own cards or information about how to fill out cards for these? And that becomes not just bookkeeping, but additional everything. So
I'll tell you what, I'm out of steam at this point.
Okay.
The stream is about out of steam. We gotta end this. I need to get some sleep before I have to go to work in 3.5 hours.
Fuck. Okay. It's almost 8 a.m. here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. I hope, again, I don't know how the rest of the world is going to take this shit, but I tried being as honest, even to my detriment, as possible in the subjects that were brought up. There were lots of things I have notes for that I never got to, that I'm thinking maybe, I don't know whether it would just be more noise, or it would help contextualize, or it would just make people hate me more. It's difficult with this stuff to decide that, what the masses say is not what I think, and to say it's a big fucking minefield. Sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's everything. And what a fucking meaningless thing to say that was. Yeah. It's almost 8 a.m. here, and yeah, maybe I need to take off too and take another nap.
All right, so let's wrap this up then. Good night, everybody, or good morning, or good wherever you are, whatever it is. And I'm sure we'll be in communication again soon. If not another live stream, we'll do it via the Facebook group, perhaps. So,
like, subscribe, and comment.
Mm-hmm. Hit that thumbs up.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for listening, and thank you for your continued support, I hope. Talk to you next time.